Chapter 23-22. With admiration, Xiong walked up to him and grinned. Perfect as you said. Are you the only one from the World Clan who's been invited? The World Clan is tiny. I'm the only one who received the invitation letter. The World Clan can't be compared with the Fire Shrine. Lin Feng smiled. Xionghaya's smile stiffened a bit. The members of the World Clan had broken their shield. He understood what Lin Feng meant. He was making fun of them. At that moment, someone landed next to Xionghaya. That person was taller than Xionghaya and looked a bit plump. He looked calm and unruffled, like someone who could never get angry. When he was around, people felt a bit pressured. Xionghaya didn't give people that kind of impression. People around smiled when they saw him. Apart from Xionghaya, Mu Shanzi had also invited that guy. It seemed that Mu Shanzi had great plans, or he wouldn't have invited such people. Xiongjiutian, this guy's family name was also Qiong. He was of the same generation as Xionghaya, and he was already a cultivator of the very top of the Shengdi layer, much stronger than Xionghaya. The World Clan has been silent for such a long time, and now they came back with such geniuses. Not bad. I hope you won't disappoint anyone, said Xiongjiutian to Lin Feng calmly. He sounded proud and arrogant. He had been a cultivator of the very top of the Shengdi layer for many years already. One more step, one last step, and he'd become a saint. Lin Feng stood up slowly and looked at Xiongjiutian calmly. He could sense that Xiongjiutian was threatening him. He seemed much more powerful than Xionghaya. He even looked stronger than the middle-aged man in blue clothes. However, Lin Feng was Daimon from the World Clan now, and his social status was every bit as high as these people. He took a step forwards and smiled in anticipation. You think a lot. When Xiongjiutian heard Lin Feng's reply, he remained calm, smiled, turned around and left. Xionghaya groaned in an ice-cold way and said, We can't wait to see. He also departed. Regarding what he couldn't wait to see, he was probably the only one who knew. But people understood that he couldn't wait to see bad things happen to Lin Feng. During the following days, Mu Shanzi didn't show up. More and more people arrived in the Mu Shan clan. 20-some people had already gathered there. They were all extremely strong. Of course, Mu Shanzi had invited many other people, but many of them didn't have time to arrive so early and wait around. At such cultivation levels, people had responsibilities and many things to do. Many people wouldn't even have the time to come to the Mu Shan clan at all. The deadline Mu Shanzi had given to the people he had invited to come had arrived. The people were summoned to a hall. Someone smiled and said, Mu Shanzi will probably arrive soon. He's here already. I wonder what he wants to tell us. The distance to the supreme animal world. Since he came back, it must be very important, mused others. Lin Feng listened to them talking. He understood that Mu Shanzi wasn't always in the Mu Shan clan. Apparently, he had spent time in the supreme animal world these last few days. Mu Shanzi went to the supreme animal world to practice, yet he heard of me. I wonder whether Mu Shanzi wanted me to come, or was it the Mu Shan clan? That guy must be an expert at communication. Even when he's traveling, he doesn't forget his other responsibilities, mused Lin Feng. An old man appeared and descended from the sky. He smiled at everybody and said, Everybody, you've been waiting for a long time. The young master is back. He's taking a bath and changing clothes. We organized a welcome dinner. Please follow me. Silhouettes flickered. People moving at impressive speed appeared in Lin Feng's field of vision. That guy is back, and went to take a shower and change clothes. He's like a chick, said someone rudely. That guy looked extremely strong and rude. He was wearing big pants and was barebacked. He had huge muscles, so pumped up it seemed they were about to explode. His hand was over his shoulder, carrying a gigantic hammer. Such people were difficult to forget after a single glance. What? Why are you so impatient? Do you think everybody's rude like you? Being clean is respectful for people you meet, said another middle-aged man coldly. He looked brutal and wild with a big beard. He looked dignified and majestic. Shut up, swore a young man, extremely tall with a bestial presence. His hands were in the sleeves of his cyan clothes, and pale lights surrounded him. He actually looked rather handsome. The two people who had just talked looked at the young man coldly and said, Little beast, be polite to your elders. When I became famous, you weren't even born yet, said the wild middle-aged man. The beast turned around and said coldly, Situ, are you saying you're already rotten and useless? Situ groaned coldly and smiled back. The younger generations will surpass us in time. Young people are getting more and more arrogant. It's not time to talk shit and argue. Otherwise use your strength to fight, said the one wearing big pants. But he was gloating over another person's misfortune. Situ smiled, showing his teeth. Don't worry. There will be opportunities. Let's go and see what Mu Shanzi wants to tell us, suggested someone wearing a black cloak. These people looked simple, but actually they all had incredible stories. They had all received the invitation letter, which proved they were terrifyingly strong. In front of younger people, they usually remained silent. They were people of few words. One glance, and they could terrify younger folk. Everybody followed the old man and arrived at a palace. In front of them was a young man with the elegant demeanor of a gentleman. He smiled at the crowd and said, Everybody, thank you for accepting my invitation. I feel moved. Don't be shameless, Mu Shanzi. You know that we didn't come just because of your invitation letter. Indeed, we have no time to waste. The crowd didn't give face to Mu Shanzi, but he didn't seem to mind. He just smiled and said, All right, stop criticizing me, everybody. Come in, and let's discuss business. All right, agreed the crowd. They followed Mu Shanzi to the main palace, and sat down on two sides of a long table. They all looked at Mu Shanzi. Situ spoke up aggressively. Mu Shanzi, will you talk now? Situ, you haven't changed, Mu Shanzi smiled. He looked at the crowd and said, Everybody, you know that I just came back from the supreme animal world. I went there to practice cultivation, but I had some interesting experiences. What? Asked the one who looked like a beast. Chu Chunxiu, who finished third at the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds back in the days, has spent much time in Ganji's time. Now, he has left Ganji's time, and he has gone to the supreme ancient pit of hell alone. You know that, right? Said Mu Shanzi. Yes, has Chu Chunxiu found anything in particular? Asked Cheong Jiotian. His eyes glittered. If I tell you that he's a sympathizer to the supreme ancient demons, and that is the reason why he went to the supreme ancient pit of hell, would you believe me? Mu Shanzi asked calmly. The crowd was astonished. Really? I've met Chu Chunxiu. Even though he ranked third at the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds, he's extremely strong. We met just outside of the supreme ancient pit of hell. He's very brave. I admire him. Even though I don't know whether Lin Feng and Kong Ming, who respectively ranked first and second at the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds, are stronger than him or not. I know that Chu Chunxiu is extremely strong, said Mu Shanzi calmly. Everybody now thought even higher of those who had finished at the top of the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds. Mu Shanzi had acknowledged Chu Chunxiu. Lin Feng is also incredible. He humiliated the Snow Clan. The Fire Shrine has been chasing him for a very long time, and they always fail. I just don't know where he is now, said the one who had big pants. Cheong Haiya frowned. Lin Feng, the Fire Shrine hated him. Actually, many people from the shrines were there. They had been chasing the top 10 cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds for a long time, including Lin Feng and Chu Chunxiu. But it didn't mean they didn't admire them too. There was nothing wrong with admiring enemies. Chapter 23-23. Exploring the mystery of the Forbidden Territories. Cheong Jiotian didn't want to talk about Lin Feng and said, Mu Shanzi, have you ever seen the supreme ancient demon yourself? Yes, with my own eyes, nodded Mu Shanzi. According to legends, in the supreme ancient pit of hell, there are many supreme ancient demons. But you can only learn that if you enter the supreme ancient pit of hell. It's difficult to come out alive. Seeing one was incredible, and Chu Chunxiu followed him. So you invited us to come, said Cheong Jiotian staring at Mu Shanzi. I want to explore the mystery of the supreme ancient pit of hell, said Mu Shanzi. Everybody's heart started pounding. People frowned. Explore the mystery of a deadly forbidden territory? How scary and audacious. At that moment, the one who looked like a beast said, What is the demon like? Is there anything you forgot to tell us, Mushanzi? Supreme ancient demons are extremely strong. The one I've seen only had one side of his body, one arm, one leg, one eye. Even his brain was cut into two. But with his hand, he can drain people's vitality and blood, and easily kill them. At the same cultivation level, people cannot withstand a single attack from him. The supreme ancient demons have existed for a very long time. Nobody knows what there is inside. Don't you want to go and see? Mushanzi looked at the crowd. People's eyes glittered with curiosity. However, they knew that the forbidden territories were extremely dangerous. Apart from people who were extremely brave, not many people dared go there. Saint emperors usually didn't want to take such risks. Maybe some saints went there and explored the mysteries of the forbidden territories. But they didn't tell anyone, because the others were not qualified to know details only known to insiders. Supreme ancient demons. Lin Feng's eyes gleamed. He had seen how terrifying the territories of the king of the 10,000 beasts were. So were those forbidden territories as menacing? Were there small worlds inside? Or ancient clans? The king of the 10,000 beasts territories were in purple clouds, and only famous in Long Night City. They were too far from the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds, which was why the king of the 10,000 beasts managed to keep it secret. If the king of the 10,000 beasts territory was in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds, it would have been extremely famous. The crowd remained silent. They were all geniuses among geniuses. If they explored the mysteries of the forbidden territories with saints, it would be useless because they'd die first. They understood why Mushanzi hadn't invited any saints. They didn't belong to the same world. If saints wanted to explore the mystery of forbidden territories, they could do it with other saints. They really wanted to go and explore the mystery of the supreme ancient pit of hell, but they knew it was going to be very dangerous. Mushanzi, you didn't make us come straight to the supreme animal world. You made us come here first. It means that you prepared things here, right? I am willing to come and explore the mystery of the forbidden territory with you, but I need to get prepared too, said Hua Qianyu calmly. Everybody was probably going to agree. They were all really strong, and they had to use their full strength. They had to get ready first. They couldn't go into the forbidden territory without being prepared. Of course, Hua Qianyu, you deserve your incredible reputation. I'm happy you're coming, smiled Mushanzi. I'm coming too, said the strong man in big pants, smashing the table in front of him excitedly. If Qilian Shan is going, I, Situ, won't refuse either, declared the middle-aged man, glancing at the strong man in big pants coldly. There were enough people to go. They didn't want to go alone, so it was perfect. I, Long Go, am coming too. Everybody nodded. Chu Chunxiu was brave. He had gone to the supreme ancient pit of hell alone. There were so many really strong cultivators, they had to accept. Even though it was going to be dangerous, it was probably going to be beneficial. Lin Feng looked at the crowd, his eyes glittering. He also wanted to go. I'm coming too, said Lin Feng. Qiong Haya turned and looked at Lin Feng coldly. Lin Feng smiled coldly inside. Awesome. Since everybody wants to come, let's meet in the Black Phoenix Animal District on the periphery of the supreme ancient pit of hell. Everybody, give me your contact details. I'll contact you in time, said Mushanzi. They all came from different places, so meeting outside of the supreme ancient pit of hell was the best. Very good. Everybody nodded and gave Mushanzi their contact details. Lin Feng and Alma left shortly thereafter. Alma was very excited. He was going to take Lin Feng to the supreme animal world and show him around. He didn't know much about the supreme ancient pit of hell, however. Lin Feng was seated on Alma's back. He sensed someone was looking at him coldly. Lin Feng glanced over and saw Qiong Haya. See you in the supreme animal world, said Qiong Haya coldly. Lin Feng smiled coldly on the inside. Little boy, have you ever been to the Black Phoenix Animal District? Asked Lin Feng to Alma. No, but I've heard about it. There are many black phoenixes there. In the ancient times, they kept fighting against humans and nobody managed to oppress them. But one day, they faced a calamity, and now they aren't as strong as before. They kept the name Phoenix even though they're not pure anymore. I see. I wonder what Chu Chun Xiu went through in the supreme ancient pit of hell. Lin Feng murmured to himself. Chu Chun Xiu was a very dangerous cultivator. He had tried to kill Lang Yi and Ho Qing Lin before. And he also wanted to absorb Lin Feng's will. How strong had he become? The news that Mu Shanzi had invited many extremely strong cultivators to go to the supreme ancient pit of hell with him spread quickly. In spite of all the legends which rendered ordinary people terror-stricken, Mu Shanzi and the geniuses were going to go, proving their bravery. Back in the Fortune Shrine, Lin Feng's clone told the diviner about the trip. The diviner smiled and said, "Fewer and fewer people explore the mystery of the forbidden territories. People who go sometimes don't come back, or when they do, they don't talk about it. But everybody knows the forbidden territories are terrifying. You had no reason to refuse. Good. Indeed, for such people, terrifying wasn't a concept they took seriously. Just be careful," said the diviner. He had no reason to prevent Lin Feng from going. Forbidden people were destined to have extraordinary lives anyway. Those places were called forbidden territories. And Lin Feng was a forbidden person. How could a forbidden person be afraid of a forbidden territory? Mu Shanzi, Xiongjiu Tian Situ, and the others going were all fearsome names. Many people were excited. It was the most impressive group of people to go to the forbidden territories in 1,000 years. A bunch of incredible geniuses were going to gather in the supreme ancient pit of hell. Those geniuses were soon on their way, including Lin Feng. The supreme animal world was an isolated world in the imperial court of the continent of the Nine Clouds. It was a holy place for animals, and was in the northern part of the imperial court of the continent of the Nine Clouds. Lin Feng had received directions from the Fortune Shrine. After going through a few teleportation portals, Lin Feng arrived in front of a dark city, the entrance to the supreme animal world. Chapter 23-24. Alma's special power. Even though the supreme animal world and the imperial court of the continent of the Nine Clouds were two different worlds, people could cross the border freely. Some people wanted to trade with the animals of the supreme animal world, but they did it in the dark, because some people or animals didn't have positive opinions about it. Therefore, some deadly battles had also happened in that dark city. The people who were there were only stronger, and also bloodthirsty, ferocious and courageous. Of course, they paid attention to who they offended. Otherwise, the supreme animal world could take revenge. And a single person couldn't compete with the supreme animal world alone. Humans hunted beasts, and beasts ate human beings. In the supreme animal world, there were human beings everywhere, but it was dangerous for them. Beasts could kill them anytime. It was their land. Lin Feng and Alma teleported themselves from the dark city to the supreme animal world. They arrived in a dark forest with beasts everywhere. "What a thick and rich bestial qi," murmured Lin Feng, smelling the qi. "They hate humans, so they stay in this area because humans usually arrive here from the dark city. When they see humans, they try to kill them," explained Alma. Lin Feng nodded. Alma then continued, flapped his wings and glanced around. Alma roared out, and some beasts in the forest stopped. Some of them lowered their heads. For them, dragons were like kings. They held them in awe and veneration. Alma led, and nothing happened to them along the way. They flew in the direction of the Black Phoenix Animal District. 20 days later, Lin Feng saw an ancient animal district. There were gigantic lofty animal buildings. It was completely different from the king of the 10,000 beasts world. The qi here was more brutal. It was also, obviously, completely different from the human world. Many people raised their heads when they saw a dragon in the sky. A dragon had shown up in the Black Phoenix's territory, and that dragon had a human being on his back. Even worse, in a celestial palace on the top of a gigantic mountain, someone gazed into the distance and saw Alma. That person's eyes glittered coldly. That dragon has no dignity. Lin Feng and Alma continued along. Lin Feng sensed someone watching him. He glanced at the celestial palace in the distance and saw a silhouette, a person wearing a golden and purple tiger robe. He looked like an ancient animal king, dignified and majestic. He was staring at Alma. "Get the hell down!" shouted the man furiously. Such a terrifying roar could destroy an ordinary human's internal organs. Lin Feng sensed heavy sound waves, and saw many illusionary tigers. Roar of the red tigers, it's king of the red tigers. That roar alarmed countless monsters in the area. They looked up to the palace in the sky, and they saw the leader of the red tiger's palace standing there. He wasn't happy to see Alma, and that human. Alma paused. The king said in a cold and detached way, "You're from the dragon clan, and you let a human ride you. Shame on you. You're a disgrace to the dragon clan. Since you're shameless, I'll use you as a means of transportation. You'll help me protect the palace." Alma looked at him coldly and spat out some flames. His gigantic eyes were filled with murder. "Old tiger," said Lin Feng to the king of the red tigers. The king was furious. "Humph." The king of the red tigers stared at Lin Feng and said, "Piss off now. Give me the dragon." "Stupid and insolent animal," retorted Lin Feng coldly. The king of the red tigers was infuriated. He rose up into the air and released bestial chi in a wave of power. Lin Feng and Alma sensed oppressive energies around them. "I'll go and kill that animal," Alma said to Lin Feng. "No. He's not weak. We can't win against him," said Lin Feng. "Don't worry, father, leave it to me," said Alma, flying towards the tiger. Lin Feng was startled and looked at Alma. He actually didn't know how strong Alma was. He was a dragon. He probably had some special powers. The king wouldn't dare kill him anyway. Lin Feng was the one in danger. "Awesome, I'll see how strong a dragon can be," spat the king of the red tigers coldly. He flashed forwards and released mighty oppressive energies. He raised his fist, but it felt like a mountain had appeared. Alma wasn't afraid. His claws appeared, and his skin was like armor. The collision was impressive and loud as thunder. Alma streaked across the sky, wounds appearing on his arms, a terrifyingly heavy strength penetrating into his body. He coughed up blood. The king of the red tigers understood Earth's strength. His attacks were extremely heavy. He was a king of the earth. The king of the red tigers frowned. He hadn't expected Alma to be strong enough to compete with him. He roared and moved faster than the eye. The word king appeared above his face. Several tiger kings appeared around Alma and converged on him. Alma released a terrifying dark demon chi. His eyes turned pitch black. People around heard dragon chants. Alma turned into several dragons and shot towards the different tiger kings. The demon dragons crashed into the tiger kings, roaring triumphantly. The king of the red tigers waved his hands, and the tiger kings roared furiously. Their roars could destroy people's souls. It seems like the king of the red tigers' roars have reached the peak of perfection. His second Tao is already almost at the maximum level, exclaimed the crowd watching below. The king of the red tigers was a leader in that region, and all this wasn't surprising. He was extremely strong. The demon dragon seemed like it was going to get crushed. Only one demon dragon was left, and he was struggling. At that moment, the atmosphere suddenly became dark. Demon energies filled the air. A dragon shadow appeared and blotted out the sky. Godly Dragon Clan's ability. The beasts in the distance frowned. The strongest dragons had a special ability, which made their Tao much more powerful. The king of the red tigers raised his head. As expected, the dragon was extremely strong, and he could use the special ability of the Dragon Clan. The atmosphere was dark and looked apocalyptic. Lin Feng initially wanted to get involved, but when he saw that, he stopped, his eyes twinkling. The Tiger King was extremely strong and controlled Earth's strength. He also had some sound attacks, so he understood two types of Tao. But Ao was talented and his attacks were explosive. The dragon spat out energies which turned into dark demon strength. Dragons surrounded the tigers which turned black. "Kill him," shouted Alma. Instantly, the Tiger Kings were crushed and destroyed by the demon energies. At the same time, a terrifying demon strength shot towards the king of the red tigers and surrounded him. The king of the red tigers' face stiffened. He was slowly turning dark as well. "Piss off!" shouted the king of the red tigers furiously. Suddenly, he had 3 heads and 6 arms. All the heads roared furiously. He started flying towards the gigantic dragon in the sky. Quickly, the gigantic dragon opened his mouth and swallowed the king. When the crowd saw that, they were astonished. Had the demon dragon absorbed the gigantic tiger? Roaring sounds spread in the air, and the king of the red tigers reappeared and shot away. His body had turned black, and he looked angry. "You're a weakling, and you think I'll become a guard in your palace?" shouted Alma icily. The king of the red tigers roared angrily in response. Gigantic pitch-black swords appeared and streaked across the sky. In the twinkling of an eye, the celestial palace was riddled with gaping wounds. The king of the red tigers shouted furiously, "How dare you attack my palace? Get ready to be punished." The king of the red tigers left. The crowd in the distance was astonished. The king of the red tigers had stopped fighting. Was he going to ask the other leaders to come and help him? Chapter 23-25. Negligence. Alma was staring after his opponent. His gigantic eyes were filled with cold lights. He overestimated himself. Then he turned around and moved back to Lin Feng. He looked quite satisfied and smiled broadly. "Father, what did you think? Not bad. Is that your special ability? You can turn people into demons?" "Excellent," said Lin Feng, petting Alma's head and smiling. "Yes, it's my special ability. It keeps growing more and more powerful. I can absorb living beings and make them turn into demons." Alma smiled. Lin Feng tapped his back. He looked like a little child when he was with Lin Feng. To the crowd in the distance, seeing a terrifyingly strong dragon act like a child was astonishing. "Do you all have different abilities in the dragon clan?" asked Lin Feng. He was curious. "Some people don't. It depends on your natural abilities." "I see." Lin Feng nodded. The two continued forwards and entered the Black Phoenix Animal District. Mu Shanzi still hadn't contacted them, and few people, or maybe none, had arrived yet. Lin Feng wasn't in a rush though. He chose a place to live and in practice cultivation. Lin Feng hated wasting time. He was productive every day. He forced himself to make full use of his time to become stronger. But Alma wasn't like that. He was a beast. When he was abroad, he enjoyed his time. In the supreme animal world, there were beasts everywhere. It was his home territory. He felt at home. At that moment, there was a human being on Alma's back, but it was not Lin Feng. It was a very beautiful woman. "Little boy, before you were even born, I was with Lin Feng already. I'm like a big sister or an auntie for you. Show me around and stop complaining," said Xiaoya with smile. She had never ridden a dragon. It was an awesome feeling. "So what? You're not my dad's sister," said Alma. He wasn't happy. He continued flying in the clouds. When Xiaoya had enough, they landed on the ground. Xiaoya wasn't worried with Alma there. He was extremely strong. "Let's have something to eat." Alma turned into a human being again and took Xiaoya to a bestial pavilion. There were many things to drink and eat there. But when Xiaoya saw the food, she felt like vomiting. There was bleeding raw meat everywhere. "Let's leave," said Xiaoya, putting her hand over her mouth and nose. The smell of the meat was horrible too. "I've heard that many people from the imperial court of the continent of the Nine Clouds were going to come here," said someone at that moment. It was a woman in black clothes. Xiaoya stopped and sat down. The woman continued, "The supreme ancient pit of hell is one of the forbidden territories. Those humans will definitely die there." "I hope Lin Feng isn't going to the supreme ancient pit of hell," whispered Xiaoya to Alma. Alma looked at her and said, "He is." "Will it be dangerous?" asked Xiaoya. She was extremely worried. "Don't worry." "How could anything happen to my father?" said Alma. He had faith in Lin Feng. The woman looked at him sharply. "A dragon?" The woman was stunned when she saw Alma and realized he was a dragon. "Black Phoenix." Alma looked at her and realized she was a Black Phoenix. The woman looked at him darkly and said, "You guys are going to the supreme ancient pit of hell to die. The Phoenix clan is doomed. They are just a feudal clan now. You're just lucky to be alive. You don't dare go to the supreme ancient pit of hell. And you make fun of people who are brave enough to go there," retorted Alma coldly. "Right, you're a coward, and you make fun of people who are brave. You're ridiculous," said a middle-aged man in blue clothes, biting into a big piece of raw meat. Alma looked at him and said, "You arrived too." They had seen each other in the Mushan clan. "Yes. Since you're here, I presume Daimon is here too. But who's that girl? Even though Daimon won't have any problem in the supreme ancient pit of hell, I don't think he should bring that girl. It would be dangerous for her," said Longo, looking at Xiaoya. Xiaoya looked so cute and naive. Longo liked her. Daimon knows that, replied Alma. Longa didn't say anything else. At that moment, he slowly turned around and looked at someone who didn't say anything. That person was wearing a black cloak, and his head was lowered. It was difficult to see his face. He had no chi at all either. Who are you? Asked Longu indifferently. That guy in black clothes looked dangerous. He didn't reply, continuing to eat as if he hadn't heard anything. Longu released chi which filled the air. Lightning appeared around him and shot towards that person. That person raised his hand, and the thunders crashed into his palm. The crowd thought he was going to explode, but he didn't. The lightning gradually disappeared. Longu looked at him sharply. You're extremely strong, Your Excellency. I want to know who you are even more. Longu released more and more lightning chi in a surge of power. The person slowly raised his head. He had pitch-black eyes. One glance and Longu had the impression he was in hell. Longu slowly stood up. He was surrounded by lightning, and the pavilion was torn open. He threw himself at the other man. The cultivator in black clothes released bloodlights. The lightning and bloodlights collided. The cultivator in black clothes moved away. He didn't want to stay there. Cut! Longu released lightning to surround the cultivator. The crowd around them couldn't open their eyes. It was so blinding. The cultivator in black clothes flitted backwards. His black robe had just been ripped apart by the lightning. He glanced at Longu. As the other beasts around shivered. What was going on? Half of his head was demoniac, and the other half was bestial. Blood lights appeared in the sky, and the astonished crowd watched the cultivator leave. Someone from the supreme ancient pit of hell, shouted Longu. He chased after the cultivator. Alma was astonished too. Was that truly someone from the supreme ancient pit of hell? Both of them suddenly chased after that cultivator. Xiaoya shouted, "You bastard!" Xiaoya looked at Alma. He had forgotten her there. She felt unsafe. She couldn't compete with all the beasts there. "Little girl, since you're alone here, you should come to my house," said the woman in black clothes with a smile. Xiaoya's face stiffened. "I have things to do." "Thank you, sister." "It's all right, follow me. When your dragon friend comes back, I'll tell him you are there," said the woman smiling. Xiaoya was scared, but she forced herself to smile and replied, "Sister, I'll wait for my brother to come back. He's extremely strong." "Is that so? As strong as King Phoenix?" asked the woman smiling. She sounded much colder and asked, "Are you coming or not?" Dark lights surrounded Xiaoya. She instantly stopped smiling and said, "All right, I'll come to your house, sister." "Good girl," declared the smiling woman. Her chi disappeared, and she took Xiaoya away. "Sister, where's your house?" asked Xiaoya, trying to force herself to smile. "And what will we do there?" Hi, good little girl. I want your dragon friend to give me some dragon blood. You will help me do that." "Sister, you just had to tell me and I would have asked." However, the woman shook her head and said, "No. We need the blood of a powerful dragon. Your dragon friend won't necessarily accept, even if you're with us." Chapter 23-26. The grave of Black Phoenix Valley. Longu and Alma came back. They didn't continue chasing the mysterious cultivator in black clothes. He was too fast. "You're from the dragon clan. Have you heard of such monsters before?" Longu asked Alma. He didn't know much about the supreme animal world. No, he looked even more terrifying than a beast. "What a strange face too," said Alma. He couldn't forget that face. Alma suddenly glanced around and realized Xiaoya had disappeared. He shouted, "Where's my little sister?" Someone laughed. Alma turned around and looked at a woman in black clothes. He said coldly, "You took her?" "We want some godly dragon blood, a bowl," the woman to Alma said casually. Alma's face stiffened and he shouted furiously, "Insolent! You could have asked me if you wanted dragon blood. I would have given you some." "I want godly dragon blood," said the woman. Alma frowned, his face hard. He cursed, "You don't have the godly blood of your ancestors, and now you dare ask some from dragons. How shameless! You want the dragon clan to destroy you. You can refuse. We'll sacrifice the little human girl then. If we do, you can't blame us," said the woman. Longu said, "I've heard that the black phoenixes are insolent. There is nothing they don't dare. They are known for such practices." You're a human, shut your filthy mouth, said the woman, staring at Lan Ge coldly. Dark chi filled the air and surrounded him. She said to Alma, "You don't have much time to think. We took the girl to the grave of Black Phoenix Valley. If you take too much time, we'll offer her as sacrifice to our ancestors." "I'll give some to you," said Alma. He pulled a long face. Xiaoya was Lin Feng's little sister. He had asked him to take care of her, and now he had been too careless, and had left her alone for a few minutes. He had to bear the responsibility for that. He was furious. Lan Ge said, "Godly dragon blood is what makes you dragons talented. If dragons lose godly blood, it can ruin their cultivation." "I know," said Alma, raising his hands, "but I have no choice for my dad." Lan Ge was astonished. The person he called dad was probably Daimon from the World Clan. He was astonished, but understood their relationship a little bit better. The woman in black clothes stood up and looked impatient. She wanted the blood as quickly as possible. A silhouette appeared in the distance and closed on them as fast as lightning. "Alma, stop," someone shouted. Alma stopped moving. He looked happy and said, "Dad." The woman in black clothes moved back and opened her wings. An ice-cold sword moved towards the woman. The sword crashed into her third eye. She was staring at the silhouette. She couldn't believe it. This person dared try and kill her without saying anything. The woman in black clothes suddenly exploded. The atmosphere was filled with a terrifying sword chi. The crowd around was astonished and shaking. "Let's go the grave of Black Phoenix Valley," said Lin Feng. Instantly, Alma roared and turned back into a gigantic black dragon. He rose up in the air, Lin Feng on his back. Lan Ge jumped onto him too. The other woman in black clothes who had captured Xiaoya had arrived at the valley. It was very cold there. Xiaoya was shuddering because of the chill and said, "Sister, it's so cold here. Where are we?" "It's the grave of the Black Phoenix. When black phoenixes are not entirely dead, we put their threads of soul here. They can then absorb strength, human or bestial vitality chi. It helps them become stronger again," said the woman. "Why did you take me here then, sister?" said Xiaoya. She had cold sweats and was terrified. She kept contacting Lin Feng with her jade talisman. The woman in black clothes glanced at the talisman on her neck. She grabbed it and broke it apart. She smiled and said, "Little sister, don't do such things. Your dragon brother is coming. When he gives us blood, we'll take you to an ancestor in the valley. Sister, why not release me after? We'll see if your dragon brother can save you," said the woman in black clothes. Laughing sinisterly, however, at that moment, her face changed drastically. She became deathly pale. She was dead. "You want to die," said the woman in black clothes, suddenly releasing dark intent. She grabbed Xiaoya again and continued flying. Xiaoya raised her head. She wanted to leave, but she couldn't, and the phoenix hit her with her gigantic pitch-black wings. She coughed blood and fell from the sky. A black silhouette took her away. The chi around her was ice-cold, formed by black phoenix shadows. They looked like death gods. Everything in the valley smelled like death. "Brother," said Xiaoya. She landed on the ground, but the shadows continued taking her away. Another jade talisman appeared in her hands and broke. Lights appeared around her. Gigantic statues appeared and protected her. The shadows crashed onto the protectors. Xiaoya burst into tears. She took out many jade talismans and deployment talismans. Lin Feng had made them for her, so that she could use them when she was in danger. She prayed Lin Feng would arrive soon. At that moment, Lin Feng was on Alma's back with Lan Ge. Lin Feng used his godly awareness to inspect the area. He looked dreadfully grim. His eyes were filled with murder. He said, "Alma, hurry up." "Yes, father," said Alma. He looked roared out with anger. Dark lights flashed around him. Some blood strength surrounded him and allowed him to fly even faster. How fast? Lan Ge was astonished. The dragons were truly extraordinarily talented. How incredible! Chi filled the air. Lan Ge looked at Daimon. He had released soul strength, and a sharp chi which seemed like it could split apart the whole sky. A sharp sword emerged from his body and streaked across the sky. Daimon's soul was incredible. He even left his body with his soul. How strong! His soul makes him look like a god. It has fused together with the earth and the sky. But even worse, It seems like he can control the earth and the sky with his soul, like a god. Thought Lan Ge when he sensed the qi. He was astonished and stunned. And the energies surged out faster than Alma, amazingly. The grave of Black Phoenix Valley was in the depths of Black Phoenix. Swords streaked across the sky of Black Phoenix. Many people raised their heads and frowned. A strong cultivator's soul was flying in the sky of their territory. Someone shouted furiously, "Who's that? Stop him!" That person's soul strength was attacked and destroyed. But the swords continued flying in the direction of the valley. Xiaoya had used almost all her jade talismans and deployment talismans. She was terrified. Was she going to die? The Black Phoenix was screeching and clawing at her defenses. It could eat her in one bite. "Brother, in the future, I won't be able to stay with you anymore. Grandpa, I hope you'll become a peerless cultivator. Take good care of yourself," whispered Xiaoya, smiling sadly and closing her eyes. She broke the last of the talismans she had, still crying. Was she going to die? Xiaoya sensed destructive energies all around her. She wasn't dead yet. She opened her eyes and saw swords spinning all around her, protecting her. "Brother, is that you?" Xiaoya exclaimed. She recognized that qi. One sword caressed her face. "What a warm qi." She smiled widely and said, "I knew that you could protect me, brother." Chapter 23-27. Danger in the Grave Valley in the Black Phoenix clan. Strong cultivators rose up into the air and flew towards the grave of Black Phoenix Valley angrily. The woman who had kidnapped Xiaoya appeared in the sky, her eyes glittering icily. What was going on? Whose soul had turned into a sword? She continued flying in the direction of the Grave Valley. At that moment, in the Grave Valley, many strong cultivators appeared. The members of the Black Phoenix clan were in the sky. They didn't dare go into the valley easily. Their ancestors rested in peace there. They couldn't disturb them, while they were practice cultivation to return to life. "Who dares offend us?" said an old man at that moment. He looked furious. The woman in black clothes appeared in front of him and said, "Elder, there's a human female in the valley. She had a dragon friend. I kidnapped her because I wanted some godly dragon blood. I didn't think I could fail." "Humph. You take initiatives which could cause trouble for all of us. Go into the valley now and solve the issue," said the elder coldly. The woman's face turned deathly pale. "Elder, I don't want to." She looked terrified. "You caused trouble, so you must bear the responsibility. Go in now," said the old man. The woman's face was even paler. That was the place where their ancestors rested. If anyone went inside, it was as a sacrifice. Even though she was from the Black Phoenix clan, there was no exception. Even if the members of the Black Phoenix clan went in, they were used as sacrifices and died. But she had no choice. She slowly walked headed the valley. She soon saw some illusionary black phoenixes around Xiaoya. But there were swords which protected her, and didn't let the souls get close to her. The woman in black clothes moved, her wings blotting out the sky. She released bestial qi, and spat out dark flames. Some of the shining swords around Xiaoya cut apart the black fire explosively, filling the air with flames. A gigantic black phoenix moved toward Xiaoya. The swords around Xiaoya turned into a single gigantic sword. Sword qi filled the air. Dazzling golden lights streaked across the sky, and collided with the black phoenix. "Phoenix attack!" shouted the black phoenix, colliding with the gigantic sword. The gigantic sword cracked, but her body trembled. At that moment, gigantic black phoenixes suddenly surrounded her, and her face turned deathly pale. "No, ancestors! I'm from the Black Phoenix clan," shouted the woman. However, the phoenix shadows absorbed her, biting away every single part of her body as black smoke surrounded her. The black vitality qi moved away from Xiaoya. She couldn't see the black phoenix anymore, but she felt ice cold. She saw many phoenix shadows above her head, staring at her coldly. They could swallow her in one bite at any time. "Bro!" shouted Xiaoya anxiously. The swords around her were getting weaker and weaker. The members of the Black Phoenix clan looked on furiously. People in the valley had to die. When the ancestors become strong and come back, they'll manage the clan, said the elder solemnly. The eyes of the other phoenixes glittered. Could the ancestor come back and manage the clan? They suddenly heard dragon chants. Alma was hurtling forward, his chi surging around him. The members of the Black Phoenix clan who were in the sky above the valley suddenly gazed into the distance and shouted, "Stop!" The strong cultivators rose up in the air. Lin Feng released sword strength again, instantly cutting a few of them apart. "How insolent!" shouted a Saint Emperor furiously. He rose up higher in the air and turned into a gigantic phoenix. He opened his mouth and spat out flames while throwing himself at Lin Feng. Alma opened his mouth and breathed out black fire. The flames collided. At the same time, Lin Feng continued flying along. The Black Phoenix raised his claws. A human dared attack them? He wanted to die. Die! Lin Feng looked like a god. He raised his fist and smashed into his opponent. Bones shattered like breaking stones, blood splashed and then gushed out. Alma roared triumphantly as Lin Feng continued flying. The strong cultivators in the sky above the valley were astonished and furious. He came to cause trouble. Someone released their chi to stop him. But the elder said, "If he goes into the valley, the ancestors will take him." "Yes, elder," that person acknowledged, and they watched Alma fly past above the crowd. "Brother!" shouted Xiaoya when she saw him. The shadows started nibbling on her body though. "Piss off!" shouted Lin Feng furiously. He instantly disappeared. The sound waves from his voice rolled through the valley and destroyed the weaker shadows instantly. Phew! Lin Feng landed next to Xiaoya and took a deep breath. Xiaoya's face was deathly pale. She was very weak. Lin Feng took her in his arms and said, "Are you all right?" "I'm all right, brother," said Xiaoya. She was terrified, but she felt good in Lin Feng's arms. Lin Feng put her next to Alma and said, "Little boy, protect her." "Don't worry, none of them will touch Xiaoya," said Alma, coldly staring at the shadows. There were many phoenix shadows, all of them dead souls. In the cave in the valley, a black phoenix was becoming more and more distinct, condensing itself, lying there and absorbing vitality and chi. At that moment he opened his eyes. Lin Feng recalled his soul into his body and looked at the sky, releasing an ominous god Dao power which filled the air. The black phoenixes screeched and threw themselves at Lin Feng. A vortex appeared around him, forming a black hole to surround those black phoenix shadows. They struggled to break free. However, the vortex was becoming more and more powerful and unstoppable. The black phoenix shadows were drawn inside, and in the end disappeared. Lin Feng absorbed them, and continued rising up in the air. More and more broken souls gathered towards Lin Feng, but he continued absorbing them. "His absorbing strength is astonishing," murmured Lan Go when he saw that, amazed. A black dot appeared in the distance and headed towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng's face stiffened. Those two pitch-black eyes were terrifying. "Not bad. Such a powerful blood chi," said the newcomer coldly. Lin Feng had the impression he had ended up in the abysses of hell. Many black phoenix shadows appeared around him, staring at Lin Feng pitilessly. "Take him," said a voice coldly. All the black phoenixes moved towards Lin Feng. His godly awareness shone, and a web of lights appeared around him before he disappeared. He reappeared in front of a shadow and used the ancient holy punches technique, destroying the shadow in the blink of an eye. However, Lin Feng still felt unsafe. More and more black phoenixes were flying towards him. "Die," said Lin Feng coldly. Death intent swept out and away, surrounding the black phoenixes. Another one fell dead from the sky. Lin Feng's chi was becoming more and more fearsome, but the black phoenixes had numbers. Lin Feng couldn't fight against them forever, could he? What kind of strength is that? After a long time, Lin Feng was still fighting against black phoenixes. His chi was floating around him. Thunder rumbled everywhere. The atmosphere was undulating restlessly. A pitch-black hand moved towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng released sword strength. However, the gigantic hand looked like an illusion. The sword pierced through nothing, and once the sword strength had passed, the hand became material again. Lin Feng retreated. Some black phoenixes attacked him from behind. He pulled a long face. No wonder the members of the Black Phoenix clan had let him come into the valley. It was so dangerous. Chapter 23-28, A Saint. The gigantic hand moved towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng didn't have time to think. He had to act quickly. He released oppressive strength, before turning into a sharp sword which seemed like it could lacerate anything. and moved towards the black phoenixes. The pitch-black hand crashed onto the sword and made it tremble violently. The sword became distorted. The gigantic hand continued moving. "Come here," said a loud voice. The gigantic sword was being drawn towards something. The gigantic sword that was Lin Feng appeared in a dark cave. In front of him were two gigantic pitch-black eyes. It was an ancient phoenix silhouette, dignified and majestic. In the outside world, Long Gu and the others were still fighting against the black phoenixes. Long Gu was astonished. A gigantic black phoenix had appeared in front of him. It looked like a phoenix god. The black phoenixes around seemed to be listening to it. "We have to leave as quickly as possible. There are several black phoenix commanders around, I think," shouted Long Gu. Alma gazed into the distance where Lin Feng had disappeared. "Where's my father?" Xiaoya looked extremely worried and clenched her fists. Lin Feng had disappeared. She hoped he was fine. "We can't take risks. We have to do something. The people in the sky above aren't friendly either," said Long Gu, moving in another direction. Lightning appeared all around him. Weaker black phoenix shadows couldn't get close to him. If they did, they were destroyed instantly. Alma shouted furiously and ate a few black phoenixes in one bite. "Father, let's go. You should leave. It'll be even more difficult for him if you stay here. You can't help him," shouted Long Gu. Alma shouted furiously. "No, help me take care of Sister Xiaoya. I'll go to my father." "Thank you," said Alma, leaving Xiaoya to Long Gu. Long Gu was startled, but he admired Alma's determination. He nodded and said, "All right, leave it to me." Long Gu put his sleeves around Xiaoya, and Alma said, "Thank you." Alma roared and flew into the depths of the valley. He rolled with his claws out and continued destroying the black phoenix shadows. "What an insane dragon!" Long Gu turned his head and looked after Alma. The valley was gigantic. The one who had just attacked Lin Feng was a terrifying monster. Alma and Long Gu had both sensed his energies. It was probably the soul of a phoenix king, a general commander. "Piss off!" shouted Long Gu furiously. He spat out lightning and destroyed a black phoenix in front of him. Continuing to fly, blue lights appeared in his third eye and lightning continued ravaging his surroundings. In the cave, Lin Feng was facing the shadow. He still had the shape of a sword. What a powerful soul strength, thought Lin Feng, impressed. The terrifying shadow said, "You think you can dodge my saint's techniques? Do you think that's possible? Acknowledge allegiance to me now." His eyes looked even colder. The black phoenix flew towards the gigantic sword, trying to destroy it. Terrifying sword chi hummed. The sword seemed like it could cut anything. The black phoenixes all around exploded, and Lin Feng shouted defiantly, "Come!" The phoenix shadow became more distinct. He didn't look blurry anymore as he appeared in front of Lin Feng. This phoenix had many dimly discernible eyes. He frowned and stared at Lin Feng. He said coldly, "Where are we?" Lin Feng knew that that terrifying creature was a threat of Saint's soul. Even though he didn't have the full power of a saint, he knew he couldn't fight against such a thing. At least, not in this world. "My world," retorted Lin Feng coldly. He condensed strength which surrounded them. In his own world, Lin Feng's strength was much more powerful than in the outside world. It was his world, he was a god here. "I can't use cosmic energies here." The black phoenix was astonished and shaken, staring at Lin Feng. How could a cultivator, who had a lower level, take him to his own world? "Even if it's your world, I'll still absorb your strength," said the black phoenix suddenly. He opened his mouth. Lin Feng's face froze. The many eyes of the black phoenix became brighter. This guy absorbed black phoenixes too. "Die!" Lin Feng waved his hands and released God's strength. A terrifying sword containing death's strength streaked across the sky. Death surrounded his opponent's body. All the eyes of the terrifying black phoenix were staring at him with fearsome intensity. "Come in," demanded a voice. Lin Feng was surrounded by a dark strength. Many sharp beaks drove towards him. Lin Feng shifted away and cloned himself. All his clones flashed towards his opponent. At the same time, God's strength surged forth. A pair of eyes appeared on Lin Feng's real body. He punched out in front of him. The power of it instantly destroyed some beaks and pairs of eyes. "You can't escape." Millions of claws moved towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng released deployment lights to envelop his body. He saw the black phoenix's claws tear apart the curtain of lights. In return, a terrifying beast moved towards his opponent. He wanted to absorb the black phoenix. Lin Feng groaned coldly. A gigantic axe appeared above him, and he turned into a shadow as sharp weapon qi filled the air. The scattered phoenix souls broke apart. After entering Lin Feng's world, they couldn't do much. The curtain of lights broke down. Sharp beaks continued moving towards him. Great empty space technique, said Lin Feng. The opponents were moving chaotically in his world. He disappeared and reappeared. There were 9 dragons around him. They all opened their mouths and drew in all the black phoenixes. But the dark creature merely frowned, convinced that Lin Feng wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Where is he? Thought Lin Feng. His heart was pounding. All the pairs of eyes looked the same. Even though his opponent couldn't use cosmic energies there, it changed little. He could still absorb Lin Feng if he wanted, then chew him up and disintegrate him. 9 words, said Lin Feng. The 9 words of his incantation appeared and floated around him. Terrifying sharp swords appeared in his hands. A black fire moved towards his foe. Lin Feng also released his swords. Energies kept exploding and raging through the air. Die! The 2 swords turned into death smoke. Lin Feng arrived above his foe and cut him with sword strength. An incredible amount of hands promptly emerged from his opponent's body and grabbed him. The phoenix wanted to immobilize him and absorb him. How painful! Lin Feng had the impression he was being cut by sharp swords. His face paled. You'll become a part of me, said the voice coldly. Lin Feng's eyes were suddenly filled with Demon King strength. Holy Spirit swords appeared around him and sliced apart the hands which held him. Lin Feng's body became even sharper. He was staring at his opponent's eyes. Many black phoenixes moved towards him. However, Lin Feng's god strength swept everything around him away. The god sword cut through every and an ancient path appeared. Lin Feng could take advantage of it. Chapter 23-29, Absorbing. Lin Feng was staring at his opponent's eyes. The opponent was also greedily staring at him. Lin Feng had the impression that his eyes were being lacerated by needles and blades. He closed his eyes and released a sharp cursing strength. A gigantic black hand moved towards Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng pressed forward with an indomitable will. He didn't flinch at all. He could cut away all the black phoenixes which prevented him from moving forwards. Lin Feng's sword finally arrived in front of his enemy's eyes, disappearing into them. Those eyes started bleeding. How is that possible? Lin Feng swore, a bit stunned. An incredible amount of hands surrounded him. Lin Feng had the impression he was slowly being absorbed into his enemy's body. His vitality and qi were being absorbed slowly, bit by bit. He could sense that his soul was trembling. No, shouted Lin Feng. How could his soul get destroyed in his own world? However, no matter what he did, it was useless. His soul was shaking. His qi was getting weaker and weaker. All those creatures are souls without bodies in the grave of Black Phoenix Valley, thought Lin Feng. In his spirit's world, his god strength roared out with elemental power. It's my world, I'm a god here. How come my strength can be absorbed? Thought Lin Feng. He was trying to push his connection to his own world to the next level. I also use absorbing cosmic energies. I can control that world. I can make this world turn into an absorbing world. Thought Lin Feng. The atmosphere seemed to boom with thunder, shaking more and more violently. He made his world's strength turn into absorbing strength, but his qi kept weakening. However, as his qi weakened, he became more and more determined. That was his last hope. If he lost, he'd die. I control the strength of the earth and the sky, of the 10,000 things of creation. Who could absorb me? This world is mine, thought Lin Feng. He kept reassuring himself. He felt more and more determined. His will could strengthen his world. Some strength was broken. A cage of absorbing strength appeared around the black phoenixes. Instantly, the gigantic black shadow became cautious. No, how is that possible? What's going on? Said the voice coldly. He couldn't believe his eyes. Absorb, shouted Lin Feng furiously. An ominous and dreadful qi began to rise as he perfectly controlled his world. The group of black phoenixes became smaller and smaller as he absorbed them all. A terrifying pitch-black vortex appeared. The big black phoenix disappeared into the vortex, and Lin Feng reappeared. His chi was shaking violently. How dangerous! He had almost been completely absorbed. His enemy was just a soul, not a saint, but it could still absorb him. Lin Feng raised his head and looked around. He felt more and more connected to his own world. His god strength was also growing more powerful. They looked extremely strong, though. It's the Black Phoenix clan here, said a cultivator coldly. However, at that moment, dazzling lightnings appeared, and one of the members of the Black Phoenix clan exploded and disappeared. The others all hissed and released their chi. "Piss off, you asshole," shouted Qi Lianshan. He took out a wooden stick and attacked the crowd, the air exploding with the force of his attack. A few members of the Black Phoenix clan blew apart and died. Bestial chi rose up. However, the group of 6 continued moving forwards, as if nobody could stop them. Thunder rocked earth and sky. People from the Black Phoenix clan had the impression their clan was going to get destroyed. It even started raining blood as their members were killed one after another in the sky. The weaker members of the clan were suddenly terrified. 6 people had come to kill their members. How arrogant! Chapter 2330. Fighting against the Black Phoenix clan. Lan Ge, Qi Lianshan, and the others continued on. They were terrifyingly strong. Apart from saints who could compete with such people, saints were rarely involved with the masses, so they had even fewer enemies. It was even more terrifying when people like them joined hands. It was why they dared go to the supreme ancient pit of hell together, without asking saints for help. Those people were proud and arrogant because they were qualified to be that way. Apart from Xiaoya, the 5 others couldn't be defeated by anyone but saints. They could destroy anyone who wasn't a saint extremely easily, and could slaughter millions of people quickly. More and more strong cultivators of the Black Phoenix clan appeared. However, they quickly realized that no matter how strong the cultivators they sent were, their enemies were still stronger. Apart from Xiaoya, all the others were too terrifying, especially when they were together. Very quickly the 6 arrived near the valley. Many strong cultivators saw them arrive. They were stupefied, especially the elder, who watched them coldly. These people were so strong. The elder broke a few things and moved towards the group of 6, shouting, "Who dares kill people from the Black Phoenix clan? People who want to settle accounts with you," shouted Lan Ge coldly. Lightning appeared in the sky and descended. The Black Phoenix clanfolk were terrified. Some weaker people died instantly. Lan Ge was a cultivator from the Thunder Shrine. His lightning strength was terrifying and aggressive, and he loved to use it. He also understood celestial thunder Tao to its maximum level. Die! Lan Ge flew forwards, bathed in lightning. He looked like a terrifying thunder god. Millions of lightning bolts blew in all directions. Another batch of phoenixes died instantly. The members of the Black Phoenix clan all had very ugly expressions, maximum level Tao. These people are terrifying. The elder was astonished. Where were these people from? The 5 people killed the members of the Black Phoenix clan one after another. The elder shouted furiously, "Our great elder is a saint. Do you want to die?" "Saint?" shouted Lan Ge coldly. "The Black Phoenix Animal District is not strong. That's why you're stuck here, outside of the supreme ancient pit of hell. Poor you. You couldn't even get a better place. You are extremely weak. People don't even feel like destroying you, even though they can. Your strongest cultivator is a half-saint at most." The elder of the Black Phoenix clan frowned and said coldly, "Even if he's only a half-saint, he can easily kill you. You're tiny little insects in his eyes." "Is that so? We'll see. We are willing to challenge the half-saint," said Qi Lianshan furiously. The air around him exploded as he said that. You, how insolent!" shouted the elder of the Black Phoenix clan. How shameless of those people to come and kill them. However, even though he was strong, he was alone, and he couldn't fight against cultivators of the top of the Shengdi layer. They had many saint emperors in the clan, but they were much weaker than these 5 people, because their Tao hadn't reached the maximum level. Saint emperors whose Tao had reached its maximum level were stronger. There were fewer saint emperors with a Tao at the maximum level than saints in the world. But now a few had appeared together here, in the territory of the Black Phoenix Animal District. Insolent. So what? Said Longa. The elder said coldly. You are from the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds. You want to go to the supreme ancient pit of hell. Why did you come here? You are a bunch of evil bastards. We despise you, spat Longa coldly. They all released their Dao power. The air began to thrum with power. After a short time, the elder was the last one remaining. The other members of the Black Phoenix clan were all dead. He couldn't believe his eyes. Very quickly, the old man was surrounded by the 5 cultivators, and was trembling. He finally understood what it meant to be terrified. Those 5 people's Dao wills were horrifying. They were living killing machines. Finally, a mighty aura began to fill the air. It contained Saint's power. At the same time, some weaker threads of Qi appeared, still belonging to the Shengdi layer. Our Saint is here, and you're not stopping, shouted the elder crazily. Die, snarled Longa. The 5 people's Dao power moved towards him. He shrieked and died. He hadn't even been able to hold on until the Saint arrived. 3 terrifying phoenixes arrived and glared at Longa and the others hotly. You all want to die, said the strongest phoenix. His eyes were sharp as blades. In the grave of Black Phoenix Valley, Alma was still there, fighting against phoenix shadows as if the outside world had nothing to do with him anymore. Alma was still bleeding. Many scales had been ripped off his skin. The wounds burned. Dad, hold on, you will win. I'm here to protect you, shouted Alma, glancing around. The Black Phoenix shadows moved away. Qi emerged from the cave. It had to be his father's Qi. A few days had passed. He had probably won. If it wasn't his father's Qi, then it was. Little boy, thank you for your hard work, said a familiar voice. Alma couldn't help feeling relieved. Tears appeared in his eyes. His father had won. Thunder began to roll. Alma fell down from the sky and crashed to the ground, but his eyes were still open. He looked determined. He slowly closed his eyes and shrank down into a tiny dragon. Lin Feng broke free from the cave which had collapsed and flashed up next to Alma. He crouched down and put his hand on Alma's body, releasing life strength and helping Alma recover. Alma's eyes twinkled. He opened them, smiling as he shouted, Dad. Little boy, you need a rest. Lin Feng smiled. Alma's body disappeared. Lin Feng raised his head and released God's strength. His eyes went black. He released demon strength to surround the dead Black Phoenixes. After that, he rose up in the air. He stretched his hand and absorbed the dead Black Phoenixes. Very quickly, there were no dead Black Phoenixes left. He then continued rising up into the air. Many Black Phoenix shades moved towards him, but he destroyed them all. Lin Feng had already absorbed the oldest Black Phoenix. Even though there was a virtually endless number of Black Phoenixes in the valley, when he had to leave, nobody could stop him. If they tried, they died thoroughly. Very quickly, Lin Feng appeared outside of the valley and saw the crowd. Longa, Hua Qianyu and the others? Lin Feng looked stupefied. Bro, shouted Xiaoya. Lin Feng smiled down at her. Longa and the others were fighting against some terrifying Black Phoenixes. Xiaoya was there too. They had protected her and had come back to save him. Such people were rare. Xiaoya, said Lin Feng, moving towards her fast as lightning. Some Black Phoenixes wanted to stop him, but he killed them instantly. They couldn't withstand a single attack. They all died and fell from the sky. Chapter 23:31. Cage of Darkness. When Longa saw Lin Feng, his eyes glittered. Daimon from the World Clan had been imprisoned in the grave of Black Phoenix Valley, and had managed to come out alive, safe and sound. That was impressive. Brother, said Xiaoya, smiling broadly. She was so happy and relieved to see Lin Feng safe and sound. She had been so worried that something could happen to Lin Feng. Luckily, he was very strong and had ended up fine. A Black Phoenix exploded. Lin Feng appeared next to it. He looked at the battle, 5 people against 3. Lan Go and the others had some terrifying weapons, and there was a half-saint in the Black Phoenix clan. While the 2 others were also extremely strong. They were probably high officials in the Black Phoenix clan. Lin Feng had heard that the Black Phoenix clan had been weakening for a long time. They didn't even have a real saint. No wonder they were on the periphery of the Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell. The Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell was one of the 7 forbidden territories, was very dangerous, and the chi here wasn't good at all. The holy sage ruler clans didn't want to settle in such places. And people who came here were usually extremely strong and wanted to go to the supreme ancient pit of hell. Lin Feng kept Xiaoyu next to him. Lan Ge hadn't been able to fight properly because he had to take care of her. With their powerful weapons, they could deal with the enemy more easily. The Black Phoenix clan's strongest cultivator was the half-saint, Hua Qianyu from the Celestial Sound Shrine, and the Fat Man were fighting against him. Hua Qianyu had a celestial demon zither, a deadly weapon. The other members of the Black Phoenix clan, who tried to get involved, were killed instantly, unable to compete with those sound waves. The Fat Man also had a terrifying weapon, a bowl. When he stroked his bowl, terrifying sound waves made the air explode around him, and his opponent's souls kept breaking apart. It was a weapon which attacked his enemies' souls. Medium-level saints' weapons. Lin Feng glanced at Hua Qianyu and the Fat Man's weapons. They contained saints' power, although it wasn't as terrifying and oppressive as Qin Shan's power. In the lower world, the continent of the Nine Clouds, saints' weapons were considered peerless treasures. Such weapons could destroy or protect an ancient holy clan. Even clans like the Devamara Thunder clan considered such weapons peerless. But in the imperial court of the continent of the Nine Clouds and the supreme animal world, such weapons weren't considered peerless. They were also divided into different categories. Lan Ge and the others were from shrines and powerful clans, and they used medium-level weapons. Maybe they had other trump cards. Nobody knew whether they had high-level saints' weapons or not. Those people were core members in shrines and clans, descendants of terrifying cultivators like Cheong Jiotian. Having high-level saints' weapons was something absolutely possible for such people. This time, they had come for the mysterious supreme ancient pit of hell. Of course, whether they had weapons or not wasn't the most important thing. Lin Feng was very touched by the fact they were helping him. The half-saint is very strong. Hua Qianyu and the Fat Man are using medium-level saints' weapons, and they allow them to compete with him. But they don't have the advantage. The best thing would be to get rid of the two others first, thought Lin Feng. Qi Lianshan and the friendly-looking woman were fighting against two gigantic black phoenixes. Lin Feng realized the woman's qi seemed familiar. She must be from the Life Shrine, thought Lin Feng. Qi filled the air, and Xiaoyu disappeared. He was Daimon from the World Clan. He could use world strength if he wished. Nobody was surprised to see that the World Clan had incredibly strong cultivators. There were many legends about them in the imperial court of the continent of the Nine Clouds. Lin Feng sent Xiaoyu back into his small world, so he didn't need to worry about her anymore. His figure flickered, and he threw himself at one of the Saint Emperors, the Black Phoenix against whom Qi Lianshan was fighting. "I'm coming," said Lin Feng. Qi Lianshan moved back. Lin Feng looked at the Black Phoenix icily. "Go in," said Lin Feng icily. The enemy had the impression space and time were changing. He appeared in a world of darkness. He glanced around, but didn't understand what was going on. He only saw Lin Feng's eyes. "Illusion," said the Black Phoenix, as the air began to thrum. He kept telling himself that he was in an illusion, but realized that it was useless. The world around him seemed real. But how was that possible? One glance could make him appear in another world? This was the saint's technique Lin Feng had learned in the grave of Black Phoenix Valley. After absorbing the saint's powerful soul, he had understood new spells. Even though they couldn't be considered real saints' techniques, at least they were very useful, and he could take people to other worlds. Actually, it started as an illusion, but then looked extremely real. Once the targets were inside, they had the impression they were in another world. That was the biggest difference with ordinary illusion techniques. This time, his foes weren't aware they were in illusions. "You're in my world, you're doomed," said a voice icily. The Black Phoenix was terrified, as cursing and death strength appeared around him. The air vibrated. A black armor appeared around the Black Phoenix as he tried to resist. "It's useless. You're doomed. You're going to die," said a demonic voice carrying cursing strength. Outside of that dark world, Qi Lianshan was watching Daimon. His heart was pounding. What he saw was Daimon staring at the enemy. What a terrifying vision technique. Daimon could attack enemies by glancing at them, and it didn't seem difficult at all for him. If that Saint Emperor hadn't been incredibly strong, he would have died instantly. What a powerful strength, said Qi Lianshan. Daimon had told him to move aside and leave that battle to him, and as expected, Daimon didn't disappoint him. I'll come and help you, said Qi Lianshan. He entered the illusion and appeared between the fighters. With Daimon they defeated the phoenix quite quickly. He hadn't been able to do anything. Daimon left the illusion with Qi Lianshan. When I was inside, I had the impression I was in another world. Is that a special power of the World Clan? Lin Feng shook his head and replied, It's a special spell I studied on my own. I'll call it Cage of Darkness. A spell you studied on your own. Qi Lianshan's eyes twinkled. How strong? With your spells and my attacks, we'll be a perfect team in the supreme ancient pit of hell. We should definitely join hands. All right, Lin Feng smiled. He looked over at Lan Ge and the beautiful woman. They had also finished their battle. Only the half-saint was left. Qi Lianshan smiled and glanced at Lin Feng. His figure flickered, and the 6 of them surrounded the half-saint. The Black Phoenix frowned. 2 Saint Emperors and Saints' weapons were enough to fight against him. But now they were all surrounding him. He felt tremendous pressure. Haha, we're going to break a saint today. Even though it's only a half one, it's still awesome, laughed Qi Lianshan. He raised his hand, and a medium-level saint's weapon appeared. Without those weapons, such an enemy could resist them. Surrounding him was useless without weapons, because his attacks were too powerful. The 5 cultivators attacked with their weapons. The half-saint had the impression he was going to die. He had never thought his clan would be destroyed by humans. He felt like he was the butt of some cosmic joke. He glanced at them. They were all very strong. Chapter 2332. Going to the pit of hell. Lin Feng also took out a weapon, his 10,000 evolutions cauldron. The ancient cauldron used to belong to the great deployment master, and was also quite powerful. It became more powerful as Lin Feng became stronger. Back when the great deployment master was still a saint, the 10,000 evolutions cauldron was probably a saint's weapon, or it would have been useless to him. The 10,000 evolutions cauldron was extremely hard. Lin Feng had used it when the saint of the fire shrine had chased him, and he had seen how resistant it was. It was almost indestructible. The gigantic Black Phoenix glanced at them, trying to find a way to escape. He knew that those 6 people could kill him with their medium-level saint's weapons. He couldn't fight them off. Finally, he looked at Lin Feng. He didn't think that Lin Feng was the weakest one, but the chi of his 10,000 evolutions cauldron was the weakest. Dazzling black lights emerged from his eyes, and he threw himself at Lin Feng. Cage of Darkness, said Lin Feng. Energy emerged from his eyes, and turned into a cage which surrounded the phoenix. The Black Phoenix stopped moving, and appeared in the vision cage. For the others outside, the Black Phoenix was still there, and the half-saint could sense it too. Many Black Phoenixes appeared and stared back at Lin Feng. His eyes hurt. The others attacked. When the cage broke apart, Qi Lianshan threw his saint's weapon. It rang out, and people could hear it millions of li away. The gigantic Black Phoenix coughed up blood. Sound waves vibrated out. The fat man made his gigantic bowl resonate in tune, and attacked the Black Phoenix's soul. Hua Qianyu and the others used their weapons at the same time. In the blink of an eye, the Black Phoenix was on the verge of death. Jet black lights appeared all around the phoenix as he spat blood. His body turned into a black beam of light, and he shot towards Lin Feng. This time, Lin Feng sensed those energies were even more powerful. The Black Phoenix wanted to devour him. It was as if billions of evil Black Phoenixes were trying to feast on his body. Fusion. Lin Feng fused together with the 10,000 evolutions cauldron, and activated its deployment spell. Death intent surged forth. Lin Feng's death Dao had reached the maximum level. So when he transformed into the cauldron, the death intent he released was terrifying. The funeral bells could be heard far away. The Black Phoenixes were quickly being corroded by the death strength, and started collapsing and falling from the sky. Lan Ge and the others were astonished. That cauldron was terrifying. It could kill people almost instantly. At the same time, a terrifying absorbing strength filled the air. and the ancient cauldron sucked in the black phoenixes. The gigantic beasts quickly disappeared. Lan Ge and the others continued advancing to where the half-saint was standing and attacked him with their saint's weapons at the same time. Blood splashed. How can he still be fighting in such circumstances? Qi Lianshan was stupefied. He attacked the phoenix again. The half-saint gazed into the distance and waved his hands. Instantly, a powerful strength surrounded Qi Lianshan. Many black phoenixes appeared and dove at him. He had the feeling he was going to explode. Luckily, his defense was good. "Celestial earth armor!" shouted Qi Lianshan angrily. A mighty earth armor appeared around him. The attacks smashed his armor apart, and the half-saint threw himself at Lianshan. The funeral bells continued resonating. The 10,000 evolutions cauldron appeared in front of Qi Lianshan. More attacks smashed into the ancient cauldron and drove it away. Die! Hua Qianyu appeared above the black phoenix. Millions of sound waves surrounded him from above. Lan Ge shouted out, and lightning plummeted down upon the phoenix, too, even as he attacked himself. Finally, there was a rumbling eruption. The gigantic body exploded in within the lightning storm, like a bolt of thunder going off. "Tough bastard," proclaimed Lan Ge. He was impressed. The fighting abilities of a half-saint were incredible. Saint Emperors seemed so weak in comparison. And this half-saint was from a clan which had almost disappeared. Even though they had joined hands, the battle had been fearsome. Luckily, they also had their medium-level saint's weapons. Lin Feng's soul left the cauldron. Finally, they had killed their enemy. "Thank you very much," Qi Lianshan said to Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled and said, "You came to help me. I'm the one who should be thanking you. That clan was a bunch of evildoers. Real phoenixes despise them. They should be thoroughly destroyed," declared Lan Ge, glancing around. The few surviving black phoenixes were shaking. The strongest cultivator of their clan was dead. These 6 people were murderous. They had nearly wiped out their clan. "What to do with them?" asked Hua Qianyu, looking at the crowd on the ground. "Let them live their pathetic and pitiful lives. Nobody cares about them in the supreme animal world. We came here for Mu Shanzi. Let's gather with the others," said Lan Ge. The others nodded. They had come for the supreme ancient pit of hell. They weren't interested in the Black Phoenix clan. "Let's go." Everybody departed quickly. 6 people, 4 men and 2 women. Lin Feng went to the gentle-looking woman and asked, "I'm Daimon from the World Clan. Your chi contains life intent. You're from the Life Shrine?" The woman smiled. "I know you're Daimon from the World Clan. You're famous. I didn't think you were so strong, though. My name is Yi Jiyin. I'm a disciple from the Life Shrine." "As expected, I guessed right." Lin Feng smiled. "You're the only one who doesn't know us, Daimon. Apart from you, we all know one another," said the fat man with a laugh. He was so fat that when he smiled, his eyes disappeared in skin. "Haha, maybe," answered Lin Feng, smiling wryly. "We don't blame you. The World Clan disappeared for such a long time. You haven't had time to get familiar with the place since the World Clan returned. The one in blue clothes is called Lan Ge. He's from the Thunder Shrine. The big one is Qi Lianshan. He's from the Earth Shrine. Hua Qianyu is from the Celestial Sound Shrine. Now you know Yi Jiyin from the Life Shrine. And me, I'm from the Soul Shrine." "Soul Shrine?" Lin Feng was startled. He knew that there was a Soul Shrine, but he had not expected the fat guy was from the Soul Shrine. Of course, he had seen his weapon. It attacked souls. Now we know one another. Going to the supreme ancient pit of hell won't be something easy. It will be dangerous. We should help one another. "Yes, indeed." Yi Jiyin nodded. "We all count on you," the fat guy said to Yi Jiyin. Yi Jiyin was from the Life Shrine, and she controlled life strength. It was very useful in case of danger. The group of people talked and flew at the same time. After some time, they arrived where Mu Shanzi and the others had gathered. "You're really slow. We've been waiting for you for ages," said Mu Shanzi, smiling. "Something slowed us down. Is everybody here?" asked Lan Ge, glancing around. "Everybody is here. After the news that we were going to the supreme ancient pit of hell spread, some other people asked if they could join us. We're now 65, said Mu Shanzi. There is a terrifying forbidden strength in the supreme ancient pit of hell. How do we get in? all together or in small groups. They could see the qi in the distance. Many of them were impressed by it. Chapter 23:33. Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell. They were at the edge of the Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell. If they moved forwards, they'd arrive inside it. Since it's a mysterious forbidden territory, we should disperse. If we're too many people at once and face danger, we could all die at the same time, said someone. Everybody nodded. Indeed, even though they were very strong, they knew they weren't strong enough to ignore all dangers in the Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell. Even saints could be in danger in the forbidden territories. I think so too. The problem is, how many groups should we form? Asked Mu Shanzi. We're 65 people, we should form 5 big groups, and then smaller groups of 6. Smaller groups shouldn't stay too far from the others to help one another in case of danger, said Yi Jiyan. I agree. That way, even if a small group is in danger, we can help out. That way, we'll also discover more mysteries about the place, agreed Lan Ge. Mu Shanzi called out. Everybody agrees? All right. Everybody nodded. All right, you can form the groups yourselves, said Mu Shanzi. Instantly, people who knew one another and were friends formed groups. Of course, the most important thing was strength. If people considered that someone wasn't strong enough, they didn't want to be with them. Lan Ge and the others had no problem forming a group. They were already 6 people. They had already fought together against the Black Phoenixes, so they were already used to joining hands. Very quickly, all the groups were made. There was a group of 5 people. Lan Ge, your group and mine should help one another, said someone to Lan Ge. All right, Lan Ge nodded. After that, Mu Shanzi smiled and said, Everybody good luck. Let's go. They got ready to go to the Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell. Let's go as well, said Lan Ge, leading the way. Their figures flickered. The periphery of the Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell was boundless. They all headed in different directions. After a short time, Lan Ge, Lin Feng and the others arrived in front of the Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell. A cold wind brushed against their skin, containing ancient energy. There were some pale blood lights within it. Let's go in, said Lan Ge. The 6 of them entered the Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell. According to legends, the Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell was a very mysterious place. No matter from where you entered the territory, it was impossible to reach the other end by walking straight. Nobody knew how big the Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell really was. So many cliff caves, we could go inside, said the fat guy, narrowing his eyes and gazing into the distance. There was a gigantic cliff cave in front of them, a blood pond in front of it. It was an incredible and daunting sight. The qi is becoming stronger and stronger, noticed Lan Ge. Not far from them was another group of 6 people. Yes, it's an evil qi, as if there was a demon inside, agreed Qi Lianshan. He had incredibly acute perception. Let's move slowly. We have to be careful, whispered Yi Jiyan. Her beautiful eyes glittered as the group continued moving. They could see blood everywhere on the cliffs. They didn't enter any cliff caves though. How cold. At that moment, they sensed no life, only chill. What kind of qi is that? Asked Yi Jiyan at that moment. They could all sense that some qi was approaching them. Behind. They turned around and saw demon lights in a blood pond. The pond was boiling. What's that? Yi Jiyan and the others frowned. That blood contained a terrifying demon qi, and it was getting closer and closer. Let's go, said Lan Ge. He shouted furiously, escape. They all flew away. The other group reacted at the same time. The qi was too terrifying. What would happen if it surrounded them? The other group also flew away. What's that? Said the fat man, looking back at the blood-red demon lake. It was extremely fast and following them. At their cultivation level, they didn't manage to lose it. There could be anything in the Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell. Let's not think about it too much, said Yi Jiyan, pulling a long face. She released life lights, but the blood-red demon lake absorbed them. How fast? It's catching up with someone, said the fat guy, pointing at someone who wasn't fast enough. The blood-red lake even sped up. Accelerate, said Lan Ge. Lan Ge and the others accelerated. In the time needed to burn a joss stick, they crossed a gigantic distance. All they were sure of was that they had already left the supreme ancient pit of hell's periphery. They were now in the depths of the supreme ancient pit of hell. How fast? That guy won't be able to escape, said someone. They were astonished. Using their godly awareness, they realized that another strong cultivator had been caught by the evil energy. His eyes were bloodshot, and he shouted defiantly, but it was useless. The demon lake caught up with him, and he turned into demon lights. His physical body was burned away. They could see his flesh melt and his bones appear. It was dreadful to see. He's dead. Longa and the others were trembling. That guy was dead. Move. Terrifying deployment lights appeared under Lin Feng's feet. Empty space cosmic energies surrounded his body, and he moved at an incredible speed. The demon lake behind them was about 10 li back. If they stopped for even a second, the lake would catch up with them and kill them. In front of them was a desolate mountain. It looked like a horizontal dike. Qi Lianshan shouted furiously. He wasn't as fast as the others, and the lake was catching up with him. Lin Feng turned his head around and moved towards Qi Lianshan, grabbing his arm. The lake was getting closer and closer. Lin Feng took him away. Thank you very much, said Qi Lianshan. But it wasn't the right time to stop and express his gratitude, because Lin Feng had lost a few seconds to come back and grab him. One step too slow, and the lake would kill them. Deployment lights flashed. Lin Feng accelerated again. The qi behind them reached out, trying to slow them down. Hurry! Shouted Longa furiously. They kept calm and continued moving towards the dike. It was a gigantic river of blood. Lin Feng and the others swept forwards without hesitation. The blood-red demon lake was about to reach them. But at the moment they reached the dike, the demon lake stopped and drained away into the blood river. When Lin Feng and the others reached the dike, they stopped and turned around. Their hearts were pounding. The river was extremely long, it seemed endless. It had many bends as it flowed through the valleys. But Lin Feng and the others didn't feel relaxed at all. They had to be extremely vigilant. The river flowed in the direction of a mountain range. There was a figure there. His robe was soaked with blood, his back turned to them. He looked like a cultivator from the old days, motionless as a statue. It was the first being they had seen in the supreme ancient pit of hell. That person's qi wasn't very strong, but they felt pressure from it. Master, shouted Longa. However, nobody replied. The person remained motionless. Longa and the others sensed a cold wind brush against their skin, and their sweat went icy. They sweated even more. After a short time, the figure suddenly moved. The figure slowly turned around and looked at them. They felt they were about to drown in demon intent. Those eyes made their souls shake. Half of his face was putrefied flesh, the other half was distinct. Another one, is he a local? Wondered Longa aloud. Chapter 2334. Terrifying demons. Lin Feng and the others didn't move. They didn't dare. They just stared at the demon. Who am I? Said a voice. Longa and the others blinked. He didn't know who he was? Longa and the others didn't reply. The demon glanced at them. He looked dreadful. The demon flickered and landed in front of Longa. Longa was shocked. He wanted to run away, but the demon stared at him, and he was unable to move. He had the impression the demon could destroy him instantly. The others were terrified and felt chilled. They were all trembling. Who am I? Asked the demon, staring at Longa. Master, you're Sakra, an ancient demon king, said Longa. His eyes glittered. Ancient demon king Sakra? Whispered the demon. He then turned around and repeated Sakra continually. Sakra, I'm not Sakra, I'm not. Suddenly he sounded angry. He then flashed away and disappeared from the group's field of vision. Longa was soaked in cold sweat and breathing quickly. He had thought he was going to die. What a dangerous being. The supreme ancient pit of hell is terrifying, muttered Longa. They finally understood how horrifying the supreme ancient pit of hell was. That demon lake is endless. Yi Jiyin turned around and noticed that the demon lake kept flowing into the blood river. Demon qi kept spreading out. She felt really bad. She released life lights, which were instantly corroded by the demon's strength. But Hua Qianyu didn't have life strength. She stretched out her hands and looked at them. noticing something kept changing in her body. She was astonished. That qi is corroding our bodies. Yi Jiyan frowned. Her life lights disappeared. The demon's strength was corroding her hands too. That guy's life was corroded, and then he turned into a demon? Wondered Yi Jiyan. The corroding strength was growing stronger. Let's leave quickly, said Hua Qianyu. The group hurried away. There was only one way to go. They kept moving forwards, into the depths of the supreme ancient pit of hell. An invisible and intangible strength surrounded them. They had gotten ready. They knew what to expect. But actually it went beyond what they had imagined. They were really unnerved at this point. The demon lake and the demon were terrifying. If the demon had attacked, what would have happened? There's an ancient tree, said Yi Jiyan, pointing at a tree in the mountain range. Her eyes twinkled. There was no life in the supreme ancient pit of hell. Yet surprisingly there was a tree. Finally a sign of life. Indeed it's a tree. Let's go, said Lan Gu and the others, veering towards it. After a short time, they arrived in the sky above the tree. Is it really a tree? It contains absolutely no life qi, said Yi Jiyan. She looked disappointed. There were trees of all colors. They had leaves and looked real. There were even some trees which were blood red. Looking at them felt uncomfortable. Those trees are like the trees mentioned in some ancient books, said Lin Feng. Yi Jiyan looked at one of the trees and got closer to. When she was 10 meters away from the tree, the air hummed, and she was hurled away. What a terrifying qi, said Yi Jiyan, standing back up. Everybody looked at her, nervous now. They're Satapata demon trees. According to legends and ancient scriptures, studying demon strength at the foot of a Satapata demon tree allows a cultivator to develop more acute senses, and it also helps them deepen their comprehension. When the old days were gone, according to legends, the Satapata demon trees disappeared. I never thought we'd see some in the supreme ancient pit of hell. How amazing that their qi hasn't dispersed, said Yi Jiyan solemnly. The others were astonished. Those trees were Satapata demon trees? If we had the 3 lives great emperor's mirror of the past, it'd be great. We would be able to see the past. It is said that he gave the mirror of the past to the woman who hates him the most, his daughter. Nobody knows where it is now, said Yi Jiyan. Lin Feng was astonished. The mirror of the past. The 3 lives great emperor's daughter? Empress Shi? Lin Feng had an ancient mirror. But wasn't it a mirror of the future? Was it a mirror of the past? Lin Feng took out a bronze mirror and put it in front of a Satapata demon tree. Dazzling lights erupted and started interweaving. Suddenly, it was like time was been going backwards. Lan Ge and the others frowned and stared at Lin Feng for a moment before looking at the tree. There was a figure at the foot of the tree. He was looking at the tree and looked pensive. After a long time, he sat down cross-legged and started meditating. The tree became distorted and illusionary. It didn't look like an ancient tree anymore. It's him, said Qi Lianshan at that moment. He was astonished. That figure was someone he had seen battle in someone's memories. Who is he? Asked Lan Ge. 50,000 years ago, he was an incredible demon cultivator, Mo Ding. When he became a saint, he became even more terrifying, and he defeated another very famous saint. The memory of their duel is transmitted from generation to generation. I've seen their fight. He's Mo Ding? The others were astonished. Even though they had never seen what he looked like, they had heard of him. A terrifying saint of the old times. He was in the supreme ancient pit of hell. At that moment, Mo Ding suddenly opened his eyes. Even if the scene was something that had happened 50,000 years before, the group had the impression they were there. They all took steps backwards. Mo Ding groaned icily and flashed away. He rose up into the air, as someone else came and landed in front of the tree. The new man had his back turned to Lin Feng and the others. It was definitely not Mo Ding. Lights flashed and he disappeared. People's hearts were pounding furiously. What about Mo Ding? Where was he? Who's that? Lin Feng suddenly turned around. He was astonished, his facial muscles stiffened. Halfway up in the air, a figure was floating there. Half of his face looked human, the other half looked terrifying. He's Mo Ding, muttered Lin Feng and the others when they saw him. They were all trembling. A terrifying strength filled the air. Very quickly, Lin Feng and the others realized that a few demons had appeared in the mountain range, and they hadn't noticed them before. They were just standing there in the air above the mountain range. Those demons are terrifying cultivators from the old days, murmured Lan Ge and the others. Mo Ding and the other demons slowly drifted towards them. Get ready to run away, said Lan Ge telepathically. Lin Feng and the others took steps backwards. Mo Ding waved his hands, and a gigantic hand moved towards Lan Ge. No, shouted Lin Feng when he saw that. Mo Ding waved his hands, and Lan Ge started turning into a demon. His blood chi flew away, he released lightning, but it was useless. He looked like a tiny little insect in comparison with the enemy. No, shouted Lan Ge defiantly. Mo Ding threw Lan Ge extremely far away into the distance. Lin Feng and the others were trembling. They said nothing. They had just seen Lan Ge get killed like that. They felt powerless like weaklings. One of the 7 forbidden territories, Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell. Suddenly, they understood why it was called the Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell, why it was a forbidden territory. Nobody could invade and conquer this territory, not even the shrines. Mo Ding looked at them. They stepped backwards, wanting to escape, but could they? At that moment, an ancient demon song spread in the air. The demons gazed into the distance, where they saw a figure on the top of a mountain. That person had his back turned to them, as he played some music. Mo Ding disappeared. Lin Feng and the others were startled. They glanced around, and realized that the demons had all disappeared in the blink of an eye. They were scared of that music, or more precisely of the musician. Who could scare those demons away? Another demon? Lin Feng and the others gazed into the distance. Next to the musician, another figure appeared. He was seated there, looking calm and composed in a black robe. Lan Ge had seen him before. Chapter 2335, Demon Kings in Cliff Caves? Lan Ge, Lin Feng and the others didn't move, but they looked at the mountain where Mo Ding had thrown Lan Ge. They were so sad for him. A moment before, he was with them, and now he was gone. Mo Ding had killed him in the blink of an eye. In the outside world, apart from saints, Lan Ge was considered a terrifying cultivator. He was a genius of the Thunder Shrine. But in the Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell, his life was so fragile. Lin Feng and the others felt powerless and weak. Master! At that moment, Hua Qianyu looked at the musician and shouted. The others were astonished. She surprisingly took the initiative to call out to him. Master! The music suddenly stopped, and the musician slowly turned around. When he looked at Hua Qianyu, Lin Feng and the others were stunned. That person wasn't a demon, he was a human. It was an old man, who looked perplexed. However, when Hua Qianyu looked at him, she shuddered. How was this possible? What was he doing in the Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell? High Priest. I'm Hua Qianyu from the Celestial Sound Shrine, said Hua Qianyu. Gigantic sound waves rolled out. The High Priest of her Celestial Sound Shrine was there. Lin Feng and the others were astonished. That old man was from the Celestial Sound Shrine. High Priest, whispered the old man. He looked at Hua Qianyu and asked, Who am I? He's amnesic. Lin Feng and the others were astonished. People in here all seemed to become amnesic, and forgot who they were. High Priest. You're the High Priest of the Celestial Sound Shrine, said Hua Qianyu. She was speechless. She didn't know the High Priest's name. She had only seen him in memories. It was the first time she had seen him in reality. Is that so? Said the old man. He was muttering to himself. Where is the Celestial Sound Shrine? A strong wind started blowing, and the old man disappeared. The figure in black clothes next to him rose up in the air and said, Master, wait for me. He's calling him Master. Is that normal? Wondered Lin Feng and the others. Their eyes were glittering. Very quickly, the two disappeared from the desolate mountain range. We must leave this place, said Yi Jiyan. They all nodded. The demons had appeared without anybody noticing them a moment before. They couldn't stay here. I want to go back, said Hua Qianyu suddenly. Everybody's faces stiffened. They had come to the Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell without knowing what was awaiting them. It was really horrible. It seemed like the only possible outcome for them was death. The High Priest of the shrine had disappeared for so many years. He was stuck in the supreme ancient pit of hell. And now he had become amnesic. Hua Qianyu didn't feel brave anymore. She didn't want to stay there, she wanted to leave. However, could she go back now? Going back now is too dangerous, said Yi Zhiyan softly. No, I want to go back, said Hua Qianyu. Seeing the high priest of the celestial sound shrine had terrified her. She knew that the high priest of the celestial sound shrine was a terrifyingly strong cultivator. If he had become amnesic, she had no hope. Will you come back with me? Asked Hua Qianyu. Yi Zhiyan shook her head. She looked at Lin Feng and the others. They said, we're here already. Even if we go back, we might die. Nobody knows. I agree, said the fat man. Hua Qianyu didn't say anything. She turned around and left quickly. She wanted to leave as rapidly as possible. Suddenly, a gigantic hand appeared at the foot of the mountain. Hua Qianyu's face changed drastically. She turned around. She wanted to escape, but the gigantic hand grabbed her. No! Shouted Hua Qianyu furiously. However, the hand suddenly disappeared, and Hua Qianyu along with it. Lin Feng and the others were astonished and speechless. Their lives were truly in peril there. Let's go, said Yi Zhiyan. Lin Feng and the others tried to keep calm and continued moving forwards. They had no choice. Lin Feng and the others crossed a valley filled with the cadaverous qi from the deaths of many people. There were some dazzling weapons as well. Their qi was formidable. Another group, Lin Feng and the others bumped into another group. The group with whom they had agreed to stay near at the very beginning had disappeared a while before already. The group they were facing at that moment was only composed of 3 people. There are saints' weapons and corpses, but those corpses haven't decomposed. They aren't even deteriorated. Those people were incredibly strong, said someone looking at the corpses. He seemed enthusiastic. Don't go down though, it could be extremely dangerous, someone warned him. We're in the supreme ancient pit of hell. Danger is everywhere. We're very weak. They died in front of us, and we couldn't do much, said that person. Even if it's dangerous, we have to try. We have to become stronger. That's the only way for us to survive. He flashed into the valley and landed in front of a saint's weapon, a bloody demon blade. He waved his hand and pulled at the weapon. Peerless bloodlights suddenly shot towards him and cut his body into 2. He didn't have any time to react. Even his soul was destroyed. Lin Feng and the others had seen that he was vigilant, but it hadn't been enough. The blood-red demon blade shook and hummed before calming down. They wouldn't forget that sight for a long time. Let's go, said Lin Feng. They didn't know where they were. They just knew that they were in the depths of the supreme ancient pit of hell. And now leaving was impossible. The 2 cultivators of the other group followed Lin Feng and the others, but didn't talk to them, staying in the distance behind them. Lin Feng and the others understood what those people were thinking. If Lin Feng and the others faced danger while moving forwards, those 2 people would have time to leave. We can't afford losing any more people, said Lin Feng, stopping and looking at Yi Zhiyan, Qi Lianshan and the fat guy. 2 people had died in a short time. They couldn't afford to lose anyone else. Yi Zhiyan hoped nobody would die again. They initially didn't want Lan Guo and Hua Qianyu to die either. But they weren't strong enough, so they hadn't been able to save them. Lin Feng slowly turned around and gazed at the 2 people behind them. He said icily, "Are you guys moving forwards?" The 2 of them stared back at Lin Feng coldly. "If you don't, then die." He released Death Dao to surround those people. They frowned. Daimon from the World Clan controlled Death Dao? "Indeed, if you want to use us to progress safely, die," said Qi Lianshan icily. He jumped forwards and oppressed them. "If you don't, then die," said the fat guy. He wasn't smiling anymore either. The 2 others didn't stand a chance against the 4 of them. "How cruel," spat one of them icily. They landed in front of Lin Feng and the others, and started running away, heading into the mountains. Nothing had happened for some time. Then a gigantic coffin-shaped building appeared in the sky. It looked like a coffin, which would have been used for a demon king. It looked like a palace too. It looked a pit of hell. Lin Feng and the others stopped and watched it. Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell. Was the Supreme Ancient Pit of Hell named after that thing? What was inside? Was there really a demon king inside? What to do? whispered Yi Jiyan. They had arrived in front of a gigantic floating coffin. Her soul was being oppressed. We're not the only ones here, said Lin Feng, gazing into the distance. There were some people in the distance on the other side. It was like a demon had attracted them there. Let's go inside, asked Qi Lianshan. Lin Feng was grim and said, I think that if we don't go inside, we'll never be able to get out anyway. What you mean is that getting inside is our only hope if we want to get out of the supreme ancient pit of hell. Yi Jiyan asked Lin Feng. There are only two paths. The one in front of us, or the one we just went through. If you want to go back, I'll come with you and try, Lin Feng said to his group. Yi Jiyan's face froze. Going back the same way? We have only one option then, Yi Jiyan smiled. She looked at the nest of devils and said, maybe we're going to die soon. Their hearts felt heavy. They might be going to die. Nobody could tell. Chapter 2336. Great Demon Halberd of Desolation. They looked at the floating pit of hell. Lin Feng whispered, since we decided to continue, we have to advance courageously with an indomitable spirit. He slowly moved forwards. Very quickly, they arrived in front of the entrance of the blood-red pit of hell and entered. When Lin Feng arrived inside, he realized it was another world, and there were ruins everywhere, complemented by corpses and skeletons. It smelled like death. An evil wind brushed against their skin. Yi Jiyan shivered and said icily, how cold! That chill pierced through their bones. The name of that place, the supreme ancient pit of hell, was becoming more concrete as they moved on. It's the core territory of one of the 7 forbidden territories. Is this the beginning of the real pit of hell? Whispered Qi Lianshan. A weapon appeared in his hand, and diffused lights which contained saint's strength. A saint's weapon? Lin Feng was astonished. Qi Lianshan had a real saint's weapon. The fat guy and Yi Jiyan also took out weapons, all of them saint's weapons. Lin Feng took out his 10,000 evolutions cauldron. He had to be careful here. At that moment in the distance, dazzling golden lights flashed and illuminated the blood-red sky. A terrifying qi filled the air. Lin Feng said, there's a battle. Their figures flickered, and they quickly saw 2 strong cultivators fighting against a corpse. That corpse only had the upper part of his body. His eye sockets were empty, and he released absolutely no qi. He looked completely dead. But he could fight against strong cultivators who had saint's weapons. What a terrifying physical strength. Even if he's dead, he's terrifyingly strong. A saint's body is a saint's body. Low-level saints' bodies are even more durable than low-level saints' weapons, said Qi Lianshan. But that saint was dead. Why was he fighting? And how? It's a zombie, I'll go, said Yi Jiyan, jumping forwards. She released terrifying life lights which attacked the corpse. The corpse slowly collapsed softly and looked like a normal dead body. The 2 strong cultivators said, your life lights can counter cadaverous qi. Thank you. The atmosphere is so lugubrious inside, said the other one. It was Sitaba. He seemed extremely annoyed and said, we should stay together and help one another. Yi Jiyan looked at Lin Feng and the others and said, we're in the heart of the supreme ancient pit of hell. The more the merrier. Lin Feng nodded. All right, good, let's stay together. Qi Lianshan and the fat guy didn't mind. How long have you been in here? Yi Jiyan asked Sitaba and the other one. Not long. We noticed a treasure, and the corpse attacked us, said the other one. His body was surrounded by golden lights, a sign that he was from the empty space shrine. He was holding a magic weapon, which became shrank down at that moment. A treasure? Yi Jiyan was startled. Where? We'll take you there. There's an incredible treasure, but it must be dangerous there, said that person. Lin Feng and the others after followed him. They quickly arrived in front an altar, a broadsword stuck into it. At the foot of the broadsword was a corpse in perfect condition. Another saint's body. That broadsword is in his body. It means it killed him here. How incredible, said Sitaba. I wonder whether we can control it or not. Qi Lianshan went to take a step forwards, but Lin Feng stopped him. He glanced at him and said, you remember the valley? You think it's that terrifying? Said Qi Lianshan. Can't you see that Situ Ba and the other one don't intend to go and try to take the broadsword? Replied Lin Feng telepathically. Qi Lianshan was surprised, but replied, Situ Ba wants to use us and see whether it's dangerous or not? Possibly. We should leave, said Lin Feng telepathically. The fat guy and Yi Jiyan left with them. Situ Ba and the other one were startled. They looked after the four and frowned. The four weren't stupid. If they hadn't seen the valley outside, they would have tried to take the broadsword. But now they were cautious. Lin Feng and the others continued on. Very quickly, they bumped into a demon, different from the demons outside. One of his eyes was missing, but the other one was alert. He glanced at Lin Feng and the others, making them shiver. Lin Feng and the others sensed a cold wind. The demon appeared in front of them. They didn't move. The demon raised his fist and aimed at Qi Lianshan. Back! Shouted Lin Feng explosively. A terrifying ruler's sword moved towards the demon's remaining eye. But the demon raised his hand and stopped it. He waved his hand and threw the ruler's sword far away in the distance. There was a distant crash. The demon looked at Lin Feng, who moved back with the others. You saved me again, said Qi Lianshan. He was soaked with cold sweat. Saved you? We'll see if we manage to leave alive, said Lin Feng. The demon moved after him. Lin Feng flitted backwards, but the demon swooped towards him. He raised his hands. Blood reincarnation strength appeared and attracted Lin Feng. Great empty space technique, said Lin Feng. He penetrated into empty space strength. A blood fog appeared around him, but couldn't reach him. The demon continued moving towards him, his hands clasped behind his back. Lin Feng felt ice cold. The demon's eye looked sharp and expressionless. Piss off now, shouted Qi Lianshan. He attacked the enemy with his saint's weapon. The atmosphere around the demon crackled with unseen power. The demon simply punched out in his direction. I just need some people's memories. Who is willing to give me memories? Asked the demon suddenly. Qi Lianshan and the others were astonished. He just wanted people's memories? If I give you memories, will I become a vegetable? Asked Qi Lianshan. If you're so kind, I won't corrode your memories. I will just have a look, said the demon emotionlessly. Qi Lianshan took a deep breath and said, All right, I trust you. Have a look at my memories. He walked up to the demon, composed and ready. The demon stretched out his hand and put it on Qi Lianshan's head. Terrifying lights surrounded Qi Lianshan's head for a long moment before he took back his hand and looked at the sky. So many years have passed again, whispered the demon. Then he turned around and left. Lin Feng and the others took a deep breath with relief. How dangerous. He wasn't a pure demon. How audacious, remarked someone at that moment. Lin Feng and the others spun around. Master, shouted Yi Jiyan. It was the high priest of the Celestial Sound Shrine. I'm Yi Jiyan from the Life Shrine. Master, how can we leave? Leave? Asked the high priest of the Celestial Sound Shrine. He was surprised, raised his head and said, I don't even know how long I've been in here, but I've never found a way to leave. How did you lose your memories, Master? Asked Yi Jiyan. If I knew, I wouldn't be amnesic, replied the high priest. Maybe demons corroded my memories like that one. Where are we? Asked Yi Jiyan. Here. The high priest gazed into the distance and answered, I've never been farther than here. I've heard that this was the Demon King coffin chamber. The demons here are all strong cultivators from the ancient times. How dreadful, thought Lin Feng and the others. Their hearts were pounding violently. The Demon King's coffin chamber? A terrifying light streaked across the sky, and thunder rumbled. Lin Feng raised his head and saw a beam of light dash to the skies. Suddenly, the blood moon in the sky exploded. Great demon halberd of desolation. Who broke the seal? Asked the high priest, frowning. He flitted away and disappeared. Lin Feng and the others saw him in the distance. The great demon halberd of desolation? A seal. Chapter 2338. King's Grave Palace. The great demon halberd of desolation was still furious. The air thrummed with fury. It wanted to destroy the moon, but it failed. Maybe that peerless demon killed its owner? Murmured Lin Feng and the others. It kept attacking. Even though the great demon halberd of desolation didn't manage to destroy the moon, it at least managed to make the palace appear. The high priest of the celestial sound shrine wasn't far from Lin Feng and the others, looking up at the sky too. His eyes were glittering. Who had made him become amnesic? Who had messed with this world? Who had made it become a forbidden territory? How come all the strong cultivators of the continent of the 9 clouds and the supreme animal world didn't dare come here? Was it because of the person on that palace? The high priest of the celestial sound shrine rose up in the air. A guqin appeared in his hand, and he started playing it. A deadly melody rose up. A silver river made of soundwave energy flowed across the sky. It crashed onto the palace, but nothing happened. There are words, said Yi Jiyin, staring at the blood-red moon. Ancient writing had appeared. I don't understand those ancient characters, said Yi Jiyin. Qilian Shan and the fat guy frowned. They didn't know those characters either. What's the matter? Yi Jiyin asked Lin Feng. He was trembling. It was the second time he had seen this in his life. The Demon Emperor. Lin Feng was shaking. 1,000 years ago, what had happened then? The Demon Emperor was supposed to have come to life 1,000 years before. And the supreme ancient pit of hell had existed for a very, very long time. 1,000 years before, there were already many legends about a demon. It had to be the Demon King of the supreme ancient pit of hell. You understand those characters? The fat guy asked Lin Feng. Lin Feng nodded. He knew those words, of course. He had seen ancient words in the Jade Emperor's palace. And they were completely different from characters they used at the moment, because they were ancient words. What is written? Asked Qilian Shan. He was curious. You could make the earth and the sky collapse. You made rivers of blood flow in the continent of the 9 clouds. I've been waiting for you for so long. Suddenly, the moon started trembling and illuminated Lin Feng's body. Yi Jiyin, Qilian Shan and the fat guy were frozen with shock. You could make the earth and the sky collapse. You made rivers of blood flow in the continent of the 9 clouds. I've been waiting for you for so long. Was that voice talking to Daimon from the World Clan? Why did he understand those characters? Why was the moon shaking? The terrifying demon lake's strength gradually dispersed. The blood-red moon recalled it. A beam of light appeared and enveloped Lin Feng's body before lifting him away. Lin Feng slowly rose into the air. Lin Feng rose higher and higher into sky, getting closer and closer to the moon. He entered the sky palace as the astonished Yi Jiyin and others stared after him. He disappeared inside the palace. The demon lake is gone. We will survive, said Yi Jiyin, taking a deep breath. Thanks to Daimon, they were going to survive. How come Daimon went to the palace? Did the Demon King call him? Qiong Haiya and Qiong Jiutian appeared. Qiong Haiya's lower body was missing. It had been corroded away. However, when the demon lake disappeared, some strength appeared around them, and they recovered. I'm saved. It was the will of heaven, exclaimed Qiong Haiya, raising his head and looking at the moon. He had nearly died. Luckily, Qiong Jiutian had given him some precious treasures, which had protected him temporarily. But even then, his body had started being eaten away. He had almost died. Let's find the exit, said Qiong Jiutian. They had to leave. Yes, let's leave this horrible place, nodded Qiong Haiya. At that moment, they just wanted to leave. They were terrified. Nobody wanted to stay in the supreme ancient pit of hell anymore. Even saints risked their lives in here. Qiong Haiya swore he would never come back to this place. They managed to leave thanks to the will of heaven, ignoring all the demons who had lost their pasts, and were just staring at the sky. The two just wanted to escape. Lin Feng saw an ancient throne inside blood-red main hall of the palace. There were Demon King statues all around, and a Demon King was seated on the throne. He was the only living being there, holding a demon blade with both hands. It was stuck in the ground before him. Who are you? Asked Lin Feng. He tried to keep calm as he said, You're not the Demon Emperor. Where is the Demon Emperor? Nobody replied. That person seemed like he had stayed there in that position forever. The silence was oppressive. Lin Feng glanced around and said, Demon Emperor, you summoned me here. Why don't you show up? Why are you waiting for me? Lin Feng didn't understand. There were many things which seemed to refer to the Demon Emperor. And now he was in that palace, Was it really the Demon King's coffin chamber? I am the Demon Emperor, said a dimly discernible voice. Lin Feng had the impression he was hallucinating. The king on the throne seemed like he was coming back to life, raising his head. No, it's an illusion. Lin Feng bit his lips. It's not an illusion. I've been waiting for you for so long, the voice sighed. It seemed like that voice was traveling through space and time to reverberate in Lin Feng's head. Why did you wait for me? Asked Lin Feng. I've been waiting for you to be able to use my demon blade, for you to summon me, for you to crush the earth and sky, and for you to make rivers of blood flow in the continent of the 9 clouds. You are asleep, how could I wake you up and call you? Said Lin Feng. He didn't understand. Was the Demon King sleeping? Only you can call me because I am you and you are me, said the voice. Come, take the blade and wake me up. Then, you'll defy the earth and sky. My blood will be your path. You will create a gigantic palace of blood, said the voice. Lin Feng was trembling. I am you and you are me? The Demon Emperor meant that Lin Feng was the Demon Emperor? He was the Demon Emperor? You're still hesitating? With my strength, I could destroy you instantly. I don't need to lie to you. Wake me up and receive my peerless strength. That palace will be yours. Do you understand? I've seen the Demon Emperor's picture. You're not him, said Lin Feng. You must be the Demon King of the pit of hell. How could you be someone who lived 1,000 years ago? Do you think the Demon Emperor really exists? It was just your image, or you are his image. If you wake me up, you'll receive my strength, and you'll understand everything. Come and try. I don't need to fool you to kill you. Lin Feng was astonished. The ancient words, the Demon Emperor, the images? Who is who? And the voice was right. He could kill him easily. He didn't need to lie. Lin Feng slowly walked forwards. He wanted to know the truth. He arrived in front of the throne. He stretched out his hand and put it on the demon blade. A terrifying strength filled the air. At that moment he started trembling. He had the impression he was turning into the Demon King. You are me. I am you. Wake me up. You'll become a real god, said the voice to Lin Feng. Would he be able to become one with the Demon King if he woke him up? Would he become a peerless cultivator if he did that? It was tempting. He was trembling more and more violently. Am I really the Demon Emperor? Thought Lin Feng. He had been brought into the palace. Why did he need to wake him up like that? Why didn't he wake up himself if he had such powers? I don't believe you, said Lin Feng. Chapter 2339. Back to the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds. Lin Feng pulled his hand away. He didn't believe him. He had gone through so many hardships to become so strong. How could such an incredible power be within reach so easily? Lin Feng didn't need such external strength. He wanted to keep everything under his own control. He didn't believe he was an ancient demon king. He was just himself, Lin Feng. A terrifying demon strength penetrated into his body, but he stopped touching the blade and took steps backwards, staring at the figure on the throne, as that cultivator was staring at him. He looked like a god, but he was motionless. He didn't try body capture using force. Lin Feng was perplexed. At that moment, the Demon King could do anything to him, but he didn't. Since you don't want to wake me up, does it mean you think you want to see how strong you can be? Said the voice. It had only one thread of intent left. He was sound asleep. I don't believe you, said Lin Feng. He became calm again. He was Lin Feng, and had a forbidden body. Someday if I reach the clouds, I will go against the will of heaven. Why would I need to wake you up and borrow your strength? Lin Feng asked calmly. Will you regret? I will have nothing to regret, said Lin Feng indifferently. You have a palace within reach. That is a tempting offer. Anyway, good, you have time to think anyway. If you change your mind, come back and wake me up, said the voice. Demon strength reappeared around the moon, and the air thrummed angrily. Boom! The great demon halberd of desolation landed next to Lin Feng. A terrifying chi filled the air. What a terrifying strength. One thought, and the great demon halberd of desolation acknowledges allegiance to him. Thought Lin Feng. He was astonished. He looked at the great demon halberd of desolation. It looked unhappy. However, its mental state seemed like it was being oppressed. Lin Feng was still trembling. The great demon halberd of desolation appeared in front of the demon king. Was it going to submit? The great demon halberd of desolation is a great weapon. Since you don't want to wake me up, take it. Maybe you'll come back someday, said the voice. Lin Feng was stunned. Considering the words he had read and all the clues he had found, the demon emperor had to be somewhere around. But surprisingly, there was only this demon king. What was his relation to the demon emperor? Why did he say that Lin Feng was the demon emperor? He had brought Lin Feng there, asked Lin Feng to wake him up. Lin Feng refused, and yet he didn't do anything to him. On the contrary, he even offered him the great demon halberd of desolation, a terrifying saint's weapon. It will listen to you. Don't forget that you are me. You just can't control its full strength yet. But I will help you and oppress its strength. It will be less arrogant. You will be able to control it, and it will acknowledge allegiance to you. Lin Feng grabbed the great demon halberd of desolation, and terrifying strength started corroding his body. In front of the demon king, the great demon halberd of desolation couldn't do anything, but against Lin Feng. Rise! Lin Feng raised his hands. A terrifying chi made the whole palace shake violently. Demon intent rang out viciously. He was still holding the great demon halberd of desolation, and looked like a demon god. Can I leave? Asked Lin Feng. Of course. But you will probably come back. I will be here waiting for you to wake me up. I will transmit you my strength, and you will become the god of the supreme ancient pit of hell, said the demon slowly. Then, you will control a peerless strength and enter this imperial castle, and it will be yours. You will be a peerless demon god. All right, I will come back if I think it's the right choice, said Lin Feng indifferently. He was thinking he would never come back to this horrible place. It wasn't a castle, but a coffin chamber. Go. Nobody will prevent you from leaving, said the demon. Lin Feng put the great demon halberd of desolation away, and left the castle. What an incredible experience. The Sky Palace, what's the date tonight? Who was the demon emperor? Who was the demon king of that place? Lin Feng went down the flight of stairs, and went back to the pit of hell. He looked at the moon in the sky. It was dark again. The terrifying demon intent continued enveloping the area. The demons of the supreme ancient pit of hell forgot everything that had just happened. Lin Feng landed next to Yi Zhiyun and the others. They looked back at Lin Feng, curious but silent. Let's leave the supreme ancient pit of hell, said Lin Feng. They had to leave. Otherwise the demon could regret, and they would have no chance to leave anymore. Even saints could die in here. All right. Yi Zhiyun and the others nodded. Could they leave though? They had thought a bit too much of themselves when coming to the supreme ancient pit of hell. They had thought they'd have lots of opportunities. But actually, once inside, all they faced was danger. Some of them had been killed instantly. After Lin Feng and the others left, the demon king was still in the palace, motionless. He was waiting for someone to wake him up. Demon intent filled the air. Under the palace, a demon king appeared where Lin Feng was standing a moment before. He was wearing a black robe, and he looked up at the unseen demon king calmly. He refused such an incredible opportunity, whispered the cultivator, before turning into black smoke and disappearing again. 5 days later, Lin Feng and the others escaped the supreme ancient pit of hell. Luckily this time, nothing happened to them. We're out and alive, said the fat guy, grinning with joy. He raised his head and looked at the sun. It was such a beautiful day. After spending days in the pit of hell, it felt so good to see the sun again. We're out. Yi Zhiyun smiled. They were alive, so awesome. Daimon, thank you, Qi Lianshan said to Daimon. He was deeply grateful. Without you we'd be dead. Indeed, Daimon, thank you so much, agreed Yi Zhiyun. They didn't look proud and arrogant at all anymore. However, Lin Feng just smiled wryly and sighed. Unfortunately, Lan Gu and Hua Qianyu died. It wasn't worth it. They had died for nothing. I'm done with these damn forbidden territories, said Qi Lianshan angrily. Dying there was worthless. Dying after an incredible and explosive battle was worth it. But dying in that horrible world was useless. And it was all up to luck. Don't tell anyone what happened in the supreme ancient pit of hell, said Lin Feng. Everybody nodded. They knew that Daimon had found something. He had gone into the palace of the moon. But they were going to keep that secret. There are things people don't need to know, said Yi Jiyan smiling. All right, we're alive. And I think it's the first time so many people come out of a forbidden territory alive. Let's go back and see what people say. Yes, let's go back to the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds, said Qi Lianshan. The group of 4 left, and didn't look back. People from the supreme animal world didn't pay too much attention to the humans who had gone to the supreme ancient pit of hell. But the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds paid a lot of attention to them, especially since Cheong Jiotian and Cheong Haiya had gone there too, and had come back. Many people in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds admired them. They wanted to know the secrets of the supreme ancient pit of hell. People talked about Cheong Jiotian and Cheong Haiya everywhere, and all the time those days, they had come out from a forbidden territory alive. The others were probably dead inside, including Mu Shanzi. Some people who had explored the mystery of the supreme ancient pit of hell told some powerful groups what the supreme ancient pit of hell looked like. But those groups didn't share those pieces of information. Yi Zhiyun, Lin Feng, and the others separated. Lin Feng went back to the World Clan. What had happened in the Forbidden Territory felt like a dream. He would never forget it. Chapter 2340. Canonization Area in the Fortune Shrine. Lin Feng's clone was seated with the diviner. The diviner frowned and looked at Lin Feng stunned. You're saying that there's an ancient palace in the supreme ancient pit of hell inside the Crimson Moon, and that a demon king is inside? The diviner was amazed. He didn't know what was in the supreme ancient pit of hell either. Therefore, when Lin Feng told him about his experience, he was astonished. Yes, in the castle, there's a demon king with a demon blade asleep. But he could still communicate with me. And he asked me to wake him up. He said he'd transmit his strength to me. Lin Feng said to the diviner. In this world, nobody else knew as many of Lin Feng's secrets as the diviner. So Lin Feng didn't need to hide anything from him. But I didn't trust him, so I chose to leave. And he let me go peacefully, finished Lin Feng. What you mean is that the ancient demon king is sleeping and can still control the supreme ancient pit of hell. He let you leave alive and didn't do anything to you? Indeed. Otherwise I would be dead. It's such an incredible mystery. People are all talking about Cheong Jiotian and Cheong Haiya who have come out alive. And they don't even know that those two were able to come out alive thanks to you. They don't even know about that demon king you're telling me about, said the diviner, shaking his head. If I have the opportunity, I will talk to the leader of the shrine and see if he knows something. The high priest of the Celestial Sound Shrine has been imprisoned in the supreme ancient pit of hell for such a long time. How terrifying. All the demons inside are terrifyingly strong. Also, you've probably heard of that demon 1,000 years ago? Said Lin Feng. He was wondering who the demon emperor was. The demon king said that Lin Feng was the demon emperor. The demon emperor of 1,000 years ago? The diviner was surprised. You must be talking about Saint Emperor Shi the demon. He didn't leave many traces in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds. Not many people know about him, but those who do know how terrifying he was. The Fortune Shrine knows more about him than the other shrines, because 1,000 years ago, the Fortune Shrine's destiny will rotated because of him. This time around, it was because of you. Saint Emperor Shi the demon. Lin Feng frowned. 1,000 years ago, the destiny wheel of the Fortune Shrine rotated, and now it had spun because of Lin Feng. Was it reincarnation? Was the demon king right? Was Lin Feng the demon emperor? What kind of person was Saint Emperor Shi the demon? Asked Lin Feng. Mysterious, extremely strong, and he became strong very quickly. He also disappeared mysteriously. The shrines were looking for him, but he had completely disappeared. Some people say he's probably traveling the world. Some people say he must have been killed by the shrines, said the diviner slowly. I think they're all wrong. Maybe the demon emperor is in the supreme ancient pit of hell, said Lin Feng. The diviner frowned. Saint Emperor Shi the demon in the supreme ancient pit of hell. Indeed, I saw some scriptures in there which were written by him personally. He seems to have many connections to the demon king. The diviner frowned. Are you sure about the scriptures? I'm sure. I've seen them before. Nobody can have the exact same writing in this world, said Lin Feng. He was certain. So, I really need to talk to the leader of the shrine, said the diviner sharply. Saint Emperor Shi the demon had an extraordinary destiny. He was mysterious and terrifying. If he was in the supreme ancient pit of hell, it wasn't surprising that there was no news about him in the outside world. Lin Feng, you need to get prepared. Your fighting abilities have reached the top of the Shengdi layer, right? Said the diviner to Lin Feng. Yes, said Lin Feng nodding. Not bad. You need to try and become a saint now, said the diviner. Even though Lin Feng had no cultivation level, he could also try to become a saint, or at least have a similar level. Lin Feng was surprised at this, and stared at the diviner. In the imperial court of the continent of the Nine Clouds, there's a sealed area called the canonization area. That place opens once every 1,000 years. In there, some people have the opportunity to be canonized. It happens only every 1,000 years. Every 1,000 years, people at the top of the Shengdi layer go there and try their luck. The canonization area doesn't disappoint people. At least 3 people must become saints, or even more. It depends on their luck and abilities. Now, it will soon open and many people from the imperial court of the continent of the Nine Clouds will go there to try their luck. The diviner smiled. Lin Feng was amazed. The canonization area sounded like an incredible place. Who built such an awesome place as the canonization area? Said Lin Feng. People in the old days. I've heard that there are mysteries inside. There are some details only known to insiders. It's one of the most mysterious places of the imperial court of the continent of the Nine Clouds, replied the diviner. Lin Feng nodded. Few people knew what there was inside. Unfortunately, this time, when you went to the supreme ancient pit of hell, many saint emperors died. They could have become saints. Of course, the opening of the canonization area will draw people's attention even more than your adventure in the supreme ancient pit of hell. People refused to go to the supreme ancient pit of hell, including some old terrifying cultivators, but the canonization area draws people's attention. The diviner smiled. Lin Feng understood. Some saint emperors practiced cultivation for many years, but didn't manage to transcend worldliness and attain holiness. They couldn't miss this opportunity. They were even ready to risk their lives. At that time, will I participate as Daimon from the World Clan, or as Lin Feng? Lin Feng grinned. The diviner smiled back. As you wish, as long as you separate those 2 people carefully. Don't let anyone know that Lin Feng is Daimon. I understand, said Lin Feng nodding. The disciples of the Fortune Shrine rarely go out. But this time, some of them will go and try to become saints. Don't fight against them there, the diviner directed. Lin Feng nodded. All the shrines were gathering their saint emperors and asking them to get prepared for the canonization area's event. It was extremely rare. It was also an opportunity to see the strongest cultivators of the continent of the Nine Clouds. Even the supreme animal world would participate. How are things going for the Void Phoenix clan? Asked Lin Feng. Nothing has happened. Qing Feng was in prison, but Shi Zhu Lao Xian went there, so they can't do much to her. However, since Qiong Haiya came out of the supreme ancient pit of hell, the Void Phoenix clan is even more enthusiastic and really hopes they'll be able to make a marriage alliance with the Fire Shrine. Alright, Lin Feng nodded. He had to get more information. There are many hidden saint emperors in the imperial court of the continent of the Nine Clouds. They're waiting for the event. I wonder who will become a saint, the diviner mused. Lin Feng could feel that the canonization area was going to be an extraordinary event. Saints were rare, but saint emperors were also strong in the imperial court of the continent of the Nine Clouds. Mu Shanzi had invited some of them to come to the supreme ancient pit of hell, but he didn't know all the saint emperors of the region. Becoming a saint wasn't easy. There were some old people who had been stuck at the Shengdi layer for a long time, and nobody needed to be invited to go to the canonization area. Even the supreme animal world could come. Lin Feng's real body was calmly practicing cultivation in the World Clan. Few people knew that he had come out of the supreme ancient pit of hell alive and gone back to the World Clan. He also wanted to try and become a saint at the canonization area. Chapter 2341. Saint Luck. The canonization area was in the central part of the imperial court of the continent of the Nine Clouds. Usually, it was a desert, because there was no chi left there, and a poor place to practice cultivation. It was difficult to imagine that in this place was the canonization area. A great many strong cultivators appeared there. Those strong cultivators looked composed, but on the inside, they weren't, especially those who had lived for a very long time. For people who didn't need a very long time to reach the top of the Shengdi layer, or some geniuses from shrines, becoming a saint wasn't as difficult as for other people. However, for old people, it was quite difficult. They needed some help, luck, and opportunities. The canonization area was a great opportunity. In the northwest, an old man who was wearing a gray robe frowned angrily. Another 1,000 years have passed. Last time, I brushed past the opportunity to become a saint. This time, I have to succeed. In the west, another white-haired old man seemed calm, but on the inside he thought, another 1,000 years have passed. How could I miss this opportunity again? The incredible chi which fills the air every 1,000 years shall be mine this time. Apart from them, many other old men arrived and thought the same. They had missed the opportunity to become saints 1,000 years before. So they had cultivated really hard for another 1,000 years, and still hadn't managed to become saints. They had to seize the opportunity now. When Lin Feng arrived, he looked around in astonishment. So many strong cultivators. Are all the saint emperors of the continent of the Nine Clouds going to come? He was riding on Alma's back. Indeed, for saint emperors, the opportunity to become a saint was incredible. One more step, and they'd transcend worldliness and attain holiness. Father, have you asked about the details? Asked Dalmo. He was curious. I've heard that there was Saint Luck. I don't really know what it is though, said Lin Feng. It was difficult to imagine that such a desolate place could give birth to an essence called Saint Luck, and could help cultivators become saints. There was no spiritual chi there. Do things turn into their opposite when they reach the extreme? Whispered Lin Feng. Daimon, called out a voice at that moment. Lin Feng turned around and saw Qi Lianshan. Qi Lianshan smiled and said, Daimon, you also came to try and become a saint? Indeed, said Lin Feng. Qi Lianshan arrived next to him and said, So many old people are here. They've gone through a lot in life. You're so strong, and yet you feel under pressure? Asked Lin Feng. Of course, Qi Lianshan nodded. The more saint luck you absorb, the more chances you have to become a saint. Every 1,000 years, when someone obtains saint luck, the others want to kill them to steal it from them. I see. The saint emperors go insane in such circumstances, said Lin Feng. Becoming a saint was a saint emperor's most important goal. The cultivators of the shrines are extremely strong. They have saints' weapons. When Saint Luck appears, the situation becomes very dangerous. Look over there, you know who that old man in black clothes is? Asked Qi Lianshan to Lin Feng. I don't, admitted Lin Feng. The old man turned around. He looked dangerous. That's Saint Emperor Freeze. He controls freezing Dao, and his Dao has reached the maximum level. Not only can he freeze your body, but he can also freeze your thoughts and your soul. He can kill you 100 times in the twinkling of an eye. Apart from freezing Dao, he also understands a terrifying type of strength, empty space strength. You see? Qi Lianshan looked nervous. Lin Feng looked at the old man in dark clothes and nodded. He's a dangerous cultivator indeed. He can use empty space strength and freeze you in the blink of an eye. Indeed, the twinkling of an eye is enough. 1,000 years ago, he was already at the very top of the Shengdi layer. He couldn't become a saint and was unlucky. Now another 1,000 years have passed. He can only be stronger, said Qi Lianshan. Lin Feng nodded. I can tell you one thing. The old people here are all terrifyingly strong. Even though there aren't many of them, they're all terrifying. They have 1,000 years of experience. With all the members of the shrines, it's going to be a tough competition. Over there, the members of the fire shrine have come. Qiongjiutian is quite famous these days, said Qi Lianshan. Lin Feng turned around and looked at Qiongjiutian and Qiong. They were with a group of strong cultivators from the fire shrine. Even Huashang was there. Even though he was weaker than many people who were present, he was still quite strong. He also wanted to try his luck. Xiong was the dangerous one though. Strong cultivators from other shrines keep arriving. I'm going back to the members of the Earth Shrine. Daimon, be careful, said Qilian Shan. All the members of the shrines would join hands to grab as much as Saint Luck as they could. I understand, Lin Feng waved. That area seemed boundless. There were people everywhere. Daimon, said someone coldly at that moment. It was Qiong, he said coldly. You came out alive. You're quite lucky. Lin Feng looked at Qiong and replied calmly, You sound like you came out relying on strength. Qiong was surprised and smiled. Of course, anyone who comes out of the supreme ancient pit of hell alive is lucky. But now we're going to rely on strength to steal Saint Luck. Be very careful though. You're probably not going to get any, but you could also die here. Thank you very much for your advice, Lin Feng replied coolly. At that moment, an invisible and intangible strength filled the air. This area contained absolutely no strength for 1,000 years and then, once every 1,000 years, it was filled with energies again. There's an exit there, thought Lin Feng. The canonization area was sealed after that. People couldn't come in anymore, they could only leave. After obtaining Saint Luck, cultivators could escape through the exit. However, the less luck energy a cultivator managed to obtain, the less chance he had to become a saint using that method. Strong cultivators wanted to get as much luck energy as they could. Father, look over there. The map of the canonization area. Almo raised his head and saw a pattern. It was a map of the canonization area. Indeed, it's the map of the canonization area. It appears in the sky. That's amazing. But it's also going to make things much more complicated. The canonization area actually has 8 exits. So people who obtain Saint Luck can escape through those 8 exits, said Lin Feng. Many people were staring at the map in the sky. Those who had already been there 1,000 years before immediately started moving towards the center of the canonization area. They knew that their chances of getting Saint Luck were the highest there. Father, I still don't understand what Saint Luck is. What does it look like? Asked Daoma. Get ready and we'll find out soon, said Lin Feng, staring at the map. There were several dazzling dots on the map, as if a mysterious strength were there. A dragon chanted, and a dazzling golden dragon appeared on the map. Alma's eyes twinkled. That dragon means Saint Luck? I think so. Let's go, shouted Lin Feng. Alma rose up in the air at full speed. Many other people rose up in the air too. Chapter 2342. Fighting over the Saint Luck. Dazzling golden lights appeared where the Saint Luck was, and people could find the coordinates on the map. When Lin Feng and all the other cultivators saw the golden dragon on the map, they all started flying in that direction. Father, I have the impression that that golden dragon is alive and terrifying. Is it really Saint Luck? Asked Almo uneasily. It's Saint Luck indeed, said Lin Feng. He was surprised too. The golden dragon glittered, and was extremely fast. A gigantic wall appeared in the air, and the dragon landed on the wall before passing through it. The golden dragon roared, trying to escape, but the crowd sensed a terrifying freezing intent. It surrounded the dragon, and he started freezing. The other strong cultivators had the impression their souls were going to freeze. Saint Emperor Freeze. Lin Feng looked at the old man in dark clothes at the very front. Lin Feng was impressed. Saint Emperor Freeze was terrifyingly strong. Father, should we attack? Asked Almo. He was eager to try. No rush. It's going to be a fierce competition. We should be patient, otherwise everybody will be after us, said Lin Feng. He didn't participate in the battle. Many people thought the same as him, and didn't attack. Qiong Jiutian and Qiong Haiyu were staying on the side too, their eyes glittering. A great deal of Saint Luck was going to appear in the canonization area, and nobody wanted to be chased by everyone else. But some people were very self-confident, such as Saint Emperor Freeze. He appeared in front of the dragon and stretched out his hand. The dragon roared angrily, and became even more dazzling, and then turned into lights. Saint Emperor Freeze took him. For the time being, that Saint Luck was his. Many strong cultivators threw themselves at him. But Saint Emperor Freeze shot into the distance and said coldly, "Freeze!" The atmosphere around him froze. Nobody dared get too close to him. Otherwise their souls could freeze, and they could die. Lights flashed, and Saint Emperor Freeze disappeared. He had an extremely powerful teleportation technique. "Chase him," said a few strong cultivators coldly. Nobody wanted to let him escape with Saint Luck. How strong? Lin Feng was astonished. Saint Emperor Freeze's freezing Tao had reached the maximum level. And with his teleportation technique, he could get so much done in such a short time. Saint Emperor Freeze was probably one of the strongest Saint Emperors present here. A dragon roared. Dazzling lights appeared again, and formed an ice dragon. The crowd was stunned. Another gigantic dragon, a different one. Was it Saint Luck too? Go! Strong cultivators started moving towards the dragon. But at that moment, they heard a dragon roar extremely loudly. Behind the golden dragon and the ice dragon, a red dragon appeared. And then a fire dragon. And then an earth dragon. A dark dragon, a life dragon. 7 dragons had appeared. They were all Saint Luck. The crowd shot off in all directions towards all the dragons. Those 7 dragons were Saint Luck? Or were they actually one cosmic body that represented Saint Luck? "Father, I want the dark dragon, let's go see," said Alma, and flew towards the gigantic dark dragon. He passed in front of many strong cultivators. His speed was astonishing. He turned into a beam of light, and crossed the canonization area in the blink of an eye. "I see it, many people are fighting over it," said Alma. Lin Feng released dazzling empty space lights. People used strength to fight. They didn't use weapons. If anyone dared use Saint's weapons, then everybody else would. And it would become a disaster. Alma roared out and charged in. The dark dragon was also very fast, but many people surrounded him. It glanced at them, very lifelike. "Father, that guy is a great oriental greenfinch rock from the Rock clan. He's incredibly strong," said Alma to Lin Feng. The one who was the closest to the dark dragon had a gold holy helmet and sharp feathers. "Zhamao Niao also wants to steal the dark dragon's Saint Luck dam. He's so fast," swore Alma. The great rock's wings were gigantic and blotted out the sky. He was very impressive. Alma jumped into the crowd. He didn't want to let the dark dragon's Saint Luck go. But at that moment, some terrifying sharp claws moved towards it. The atmosphere was lacerated around everyone. The great oriental greenfinch rock's wings turned into sharp swords and swept everything away in his path. How fast! Lin Feng was astonished. He sensed a strong wind brush against his face. He couldn't even follow the great rock with his eye. The great oriental greenfinch rock's speed is astonishing, but expected too. The other strong cultivators pulled long faces as the great oriental greenfinch rock ran away with the Saint Luck. They had encircled him, but he had managed to get through, and now chasing him would be difficult. There's still Saint Luck left. The crowd looked at the sky and realized that there was no Saint Luck left on the map. Many strong cultivators wanted to get the Saint Luck from those who had taken it already. Someone has escaped already. He couldn't handle the pressure, so he escaped. They could see that on the map. Someone had escaped with Saint Luck. "Father, I can sense that Saint Luck is incredible. But stealing some will be extremely difficult," said Alma. Lin Feng nodded. "Saint Luck just increases the chances of becoming a saint. It's not because you have Saint Luck that you will definitely become a saint. If you have Saint Luck but can't become a saint, it's useless. However, if you have the Saint Luck of the 7 dragons, then the chances of becoming a saint are extremely high," said Alma, taking Lin Feng to the center of the canonization area. "The Saint Luck is weakening," said Lin Feng when he saw the lights disperse slowly. The strong cultivators were slowly consuming the Saint Luck. "Daimon," said someone at that moment. It was Yi Zhiyin. "You're here too," Lin Feng smiled. "Yes, I wanted to try my luck too," smiled Yi Zhiyin. "So, do you think you'll manage to get some Saint Luck?" "Not necessarily. There are too many strong cultivators," replied Lin Feng easily. "Indeed, that one is extremely strong. I saw him fight, he's scary," said Yi Zhiyin pointing at someone. Lin Feng saw a cultivator in black clothes, his chi strong. "There are always talented individuals in hiding," agreed Lin Feng. At that moment, the person turned around. His eyes were bloodshot and proud. He looked like a demon from the pit of hell. It's him. Lin Feng was astonished. He recognized the man. How come he looks so evil now? Lin Feng was startled. According to legends, after King Chu, another genius had emerged in the Chu clan. But he had gone insane. Was Chu Chunxiu going to become insane too now? Because that cultivator was Chu Chunxiu. There's something wrong. That's the chi of the supreme ancient pit of hell. He came out of the supreme ancient pit of hell. So could it be that he absorbed some evil creatures there? Thought Lin Feng. Everything was possible when it came to Chu Chunxiu. He was insane. In the supreme ancient pit of hell, there had been many terrifying creatures, demons, and corpses. It was filled with death. Chu Chunxiu smiled at Lin Feng coldly. Lin Feng frowned. Did Chu Chunxiu recognize him? Father Saint Luck, 3 golden birds, shouted Alma suddenly. Not far from them, 3 birds moved in different directions. A bird disappeared. Lin Feng was stupefied. A bird suddenly disappeared as quickly as it showed up. There's something wrong. He went into some empty space strength. He's there. Lin Feng saw the bird reappear. The figure of the bird on the other side kept flickering. The last bird kept whistling, fissures appearing in the atmosphere around. It was moving very quickly. That's a terrifying empty space energy. Those birds all control empty space energy. With those 3 sources of saint luck, any strong cultivator could become a saint. Thought Lin Feng. Many cultivators who controlled empty space strength understood that, and started chasing quickly. Chapter 2344, Killing. Qi Lianshan and Qiong Jiutian were fighting. Qiong Jiutian's fire was terrifying, but Qi Lianshan was strong too, and kept attacking him and forcing him backwards. Qiong Jiutian, we'll have a big battle today, shouted Qi Lianshan cheerfully, oppressing Qiong Jiutian. Both of them were very strong, saint emperors of the very top of the Shengdi layer. The fat guy laughed at the 2 other cultivators of the fire shrine. He was very dangerous, and they knew it. Lin Feng and Qiong Haiyu were fighting. Energies surged towards Lin Feng. Qiong Haiyu smiled coldly and said, "Last time you escaped. Today, I won't make the same mistake and let you run away." "Dream on," replied Lin Feng, smiling coldly. He was wondering what would happen if he killed a member of the fire shrine. Would the fire shrine dare go and start a war against the world clan? Even though they were a shrine? The fire shrine kept oppressing Qing Feng. Qiong Haiyu wanted a marriage alliance with the Void Phoenix clan using Qing Feng. If Qiong Haiyu died, that marriage alliance would be nullified. Lin Feng smiled coldly, his eyes filled with murder. A terrifying fireball appeared and surrounded Lin Feng. Lin Feng felt he was in an ocean of flames. He frowned at Qiong Haiyu. Qiong Haiyu wanted to kill him too. "Since it's that way, I won't be polite," swore Lin Feng. His eyes suddenly became pitch black, and a cage of darkness appeared around Qiong Haiyu. Qiong Haiyu was shocked. He was now in a dark illusion, no life in there, just death and cold. The earth and sky roared around him. God's strength invaded that world, and it became a realm of death. Qiong Haiyu felt ice cold. He was shuddering. He released even more flames, and behind him, a fearsome spiritual fire appeared. Lights flared. Qiong Haiyu threw himself at Lin Feng. 9 spiritual fireballs appeared and shot in all directions. However, a gigantic pitch-black fist appeared and moved towards his head, forcing him to retreat rapidly. "You can't leave my death world," said a voice. Qiong Haiyu saw Lin Feng appear in front of him. At that moment, Lin Feng looked like a death god, an ancient demon, aggressive and frightening. Qiong Haiyu sensed that Lin Feng's chi had changed and was astonished. Was this world a skill of the world clan? Lights flashed and a fire hand appeared. Fire chi filled the air. Qiong Haiyu moved too, the gigantic fire hand shooting towards Lin Feng. It contained a little bit of saint's strength. Lin Feng was surrounded by that gigantic hand, like a cage. Qiong Haiyu was using a saint's weapon. Lin Feng released demon strength, which swept through the air. Lin Feng took out the great demon halberd of desolation, and a terrifying demon strength rose up and washed everything away. His great demon halberd of desolation streaked across the sky and destroyed the gigantic fire hand as Lin Feng continued moving forwards. Feeble. said Lin Feng to Qiong Haiya emotionlessly. Qiong Haiya was staring at the great demon halberd of desolation, and his heart started pounding. How was that possible? It was the saint's weapon they had seen in the supreme ancient pit of hell. How had Lin Feng obtained it? Initially, I wanted to have a fair battle with you, but you don't deserve fair treatment, said Lin Feng icily. He disappeared. Empty strength lights flashed, and he reappeared in front of Qiong Haiya. His great demon halberd of desolation pressed forward with an indomitable will and broke everything in the way. No, Qiong Haiya sensed the terrifying power of the great demon halberd of desolation. He couldn't compete with it. He raised his hands in front of him, and something shattered loudly. The great demon halberd of desolation had destroyed his hands. Die! Shouted Lin Feng coldly. The great demon halberd of desolation pressed towards Qiong Haiya's throat. Destroy! Snarled Lin Feng as Qiong Haiya's body was being corroded by the demon strength and turned into demon qi. He wasn't a saint. His body could easily be destroyed using a saint's weapon. Lin Feng put the great demon halberd of desolation away, and the cage disappeared. He reappeared outside and shouted, "Qilian Shan fatty here." Qilian Shan and the fat guy looked at Lin Feng. When they saw that Qiong Haiya wasn't there anymore, they were astonished. Had Lin Feng really killed Qiong Haiya? Qiong Jiotian and the other members of the fire shrine were stunned. Qiong Jiotian had been killed. However, Lin Feng didn't care. He looked at Qilian Shan and the fat guy, and together they left at full speed. "Daimon, you're too brave," chortled the fat guy to Lin Feng. Even though it was the canonization area, and dying was a risk all the cultivators agreed to take, there were still some people whom other people didn't want to kill, such as those members of the fire shrine, whose family name was Qiong. But Daimon was insane. He had killed Qiong Haiya. Qiong Jiotian and the others didn't chase after Lin Feng. It was useless. They hadn't thought that Qiong Haiya would be killed. Daimon had dared to kill him. It doesn't really matter, does it? Qilian Shan fatty, since we found each other here as well, let's join hands, alright? I want the 2 other birds. After that, if some birds who have saint luck you need appear, I'll help you too. What do you think? Said Lin Feng indifferently, as if nothing important had happened. He didn't care about Qiong Haiya. Qiong Haiya had died because the members of the fire shrine had chased him. They probably understood that. "Damn, you're brutal. I'll follow you," laughed Qilian Shan. The fat guy smiled and said, "Alright, let's join hands. Some people are fighting against one bird, and the other one is still flying away. Where do we go?" "Let's go to the one who's fighting already," said Lin Feng, accelerating. They all turned into beams of light, quickly arriving on the battlefield. Blood kept flying. A strong cultivator was killed by a group of people, and the Saint Luck reappeared. When a cultivator who had stolen Saint Luck was killed, as long as he hadn't assimilated and modified it, the Saint Luck reappeared. For someone like Alma, assimilating Saint Luck was extremely difficult, a long process. He needed to study it while assimilating it, or it was useless. Everybody understood that. Therefore, when Lin Feng and the others arrived, everybody looked at them coldly. There was Saint Luck in Alma's body, visibly glittering. "It's incandescent. There's even a saint's weapon here." The fat guy sensed a terrifying chi. "Leave this one to us, please. If Saint Luck reappears again, we won't try and take it," said a strong cultivator from the empty space shrine. They really wanted this bird Saint Luck. It contained empty space strength. "You want us to leave it to you, but what if others don't leave it to you? In the end, you might not be able to keep it, and then don't tell me you won't try to get the others," said the other strong cultivators around coldly. "As you said, if nobody steals it from us, we won't take the others, but if we don't get it, we'll continue trying to get Saint Luck. So what will you do?" retorted the shrine cultivators, releasing empty space strength. "I can't possibly give up," said a strong cultivator coldly. He was also wearing an empty space robe. A light curtain appeared around him. "Fatty, stop them. But be careful, don't let your attack affect me," said Lin Feng telepathically. The fat guy nodded and slowly drew closer to the group. An ancient mirror which looked like a shield appeared in his hand. He threw it out and shouted furiously. The sound wave caused by his voice bounced off the mirror and instantly, Everybody was stunned, their souls trembling. At that moment, a light covered the bird. A gigantic set of jaws appeared and devoured the bird. Oh no! The crowd saw a dazzling sword shoot towards Lin Feng, and he disappeared in empty space strength and reappeared in the distance. Someone released ancient imprints to surround him, but Lin Feng's great demon halberd of desolation streaked across the sky, and the ancient imprints shattered. The strong cultivator who had released them was astonished. He couldn't believe it his eyes. Chapter 2345. Guarding the gateway. Father, it's awesome! Exclaimed Alma after absorbing the bird. The fat guy didn't disappoint Lin Feng, and his saint's weapon was terrifyingly powerful. It had stunned everyone for a few seconds. After that, Lin Feng and Alma flew away. How do you feel? Asked Lin Feng to Alma. It contains an incredible empty space strength. It's in my brain now. If I were a cultivator of the very top of the Shengdi layer, I would really become a saint now. Unfortunately, I can only study it slowly, admitted Alma. He was very happy. I need to study it calmly. You deal with the rest, be careful. Alright, go and study. Leave the rest to me. If I get the last bird Saint Luck, I'll call you, said Lin Feng. The air was thrumming as a group of strong cultivators was chasing him. They were extremely fast. Lin Feng didn't turn around. He just glanced at the map in the sky now and then. He moved towards the last bird. Strong cultivators had finally managed to catch up with it, and someone had already captured it. Alma needs the 3 birds. The Saint Luck will be complete only if he gets the 3 of them, thought Lin Feng, moving as fast as lightning. He glanced at the battle. People had already taken Saint's weapons out, and were dying one after another. Everybody was vigilant, and the one who had already captured the Saint Luck was covered with blood. He could die anytime. The only reason why he hadn't died yet was that people were trying to think of a strategy for themselves. If they stole it now, then everybody else would encircle them. At that moment, everything seemed to stop, and a figure appeared in front of the one who had taken the Saint Luck. A terrifying spear thrust towards his head, and an illusionary hand closed on him. The hand grabbed him, and the figure left with the cultivator. We're too slow. The crowd's faces froze. They were too slow. They felt extremely slow. After that person disappeared, a terrifying wave washed through them. Many people withdrew. What a powerful Saint's weapon. It contains Saint's deceleration strength. It was like time had stopped. Lin Feng didn't stop. Some people were chasing him. Alma had obtained 2 birds already. How could he stop? Someone has Saint Luck there, shouted someone. Lin Feng flew after him. Lin Feng realized that that person wasn't extremely fast, but he had 2 incredible Saint's weapons. One of them was a disc which contained deceleration Saint's energy and slowed his enemies down. The other one was a terrifyingly sharp spear. He had used that spear to kill many people a moment ago. With those 2 weapons he was truly redoubtable. There. Lin Feng glanced at his great demon halberd of desolation. It was a high-level Saint's weapon. He could probably kill the man easily with it. Lin Feng accelerated. He couldn't fly any faster. People around heard sonic booms. He slowly got rid of the people behind him. Only people who controlled speed-related energies continued chasing the cultivator. The one who had obtained the Saint Luck turned his head and looked back at Lin Feng, smiling coldly. Lin Feng had Saint Luck, a terrifying Saint's weapon, and dared chase him. He really wanted to die. The cultivator activated his disc again, turning suddenly, and the disc diffused lights which filled the air. The deceleration lights were so powerful that space and time became chaotic. Lin Feng sensed an invisible and intangible strength surround his body. His muscles stiffened up as he slowed down against his will. The spear moved towards his head undeterred. That cultivator wanted to kill Lin Feng as quickly as possible. Lin Feng was soaked with cold sweat. This man was terrifying. Lin Feng released an awesome strength. He had God's strength. How could he sit and wait for death? Go in, said Lin Feng coldly. The cage of darkness appeared, but the spear destroyed the cage of darkness and continued shooting towards Lin Feng. Great empty space technique. Lin Feng jumped into empty space and released strength. Then his great demon halberd of desolation streaked across the sky. The spear pierced through the empty space strength and appeared in front of Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng's great demon halberd of desolation was moving towards his enemy's throat and beheaded him. How dangerous! Lin Feng left the empty space, and the terrifying spear moved behind him already. If he hadn't used the great empty space technique, he would have died. Another terrifying chi filled the air. Lin Feng continued flying forwards at full speed. Then he called Alma again for him to eat the man. Father, I have the 3 birds Saint Luck, but now the situation is difficult for you. They're all chasing you. Yes, I have to escape, said Lin Feng. If a group of people with Saint's weapons surrounded him, he would definitely die. Otherwise, he had just obtained 2 terrifying Saint's weapons. But this time, Lin Feng had obtained 3 birds Saint Luck, and the strong cultivators behind wouldn't leave the matter at that. They were all chasing him as quickly as they could. Lin Feng grunted coldly. He was holding his great demon halberd of desolation firmly, and his chi was ominous. The great demon halberd of desolation was a high-level saint's weapon, but Lin Feng didn't really understand its particular strength. Maybe he was still too weak. He couldn't use it to overrun all fortifications. But even this way, it was sufficiently terrifying. They want to die. Lin Feng landed at the top of a mountain and suddenly stopped. The 2 fastest cultivators behind him controlled empty space strength and continued flying towards him. Imprison, said Lin Feng coldly. The 2 cultivators suddenly saw darkness fill the air around them. They used their saint's weapons to destroy the cage, but the great demon halberd of desolation was sweeping towards them. His face turned deathly pale. He released as much empty space strength as he could. Boom! The great demon halberd of desolation contained a terrifying saint's power. The demon chi instantly corroded that cultivator's body, and he vanished. The other one was so scared that he fled as fast as he could. Lin Feng raised his saint's weapon and moved back. He went back to the top of the mountain, looking apathetic. The strong cultivators who were chasing him all stopped. Lin Feng had the great demon halberd of desolation. He looked like a demon king. He said to the crowd coldly, I have the 3 birds, and if anyone attacks me, I can guarantee that I will kill them. We came out of the supreme ancient pit of hell, rogues of all kinds running wildly. So be careful. You also came out of the supreme ancient pit of hell. His halberd contains a terrifying demon saint's strength. Could it be that it's from the supreme ancient pit of hell? Lin Feng sneezed. Terrifying golden lights appeared around him. Someone charged him, trying to crush him. Lin Feng started bleeding, his skin was cracking. Against such a terrifying attack, only someone who had a saint's body could resist. You want to die, said Lin Feng coldly. He suddenly disappeared. Condensed empty space and wind cosmic energies in the great demon halberd of desolation, and it hacked towards his attacker and instantly killed him. The people behind didn't get involved. Those who wanted to attack realized it was too late. Lin Feng was already back at the top of the mountain, standing there like a demon king. With that halberd he can kill us in one strike. They were astonished. He didn't lie to them. If anyone dared attack, he'd kill them instantly. Very quickly, some more Saint Luck is going to appear. Are you going to stay here and waste your time? Asked Lin Feng detachedly. The crowd's eyes glittered. Lin Feng was too fast, and his great demon halberd of desolation was terrifying. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.